What is up, everybody? Welcome to a little impromptu, spontaneous Ask Me Anything Q&A. Had a long, busy week. This is the first night where I can actually kind of relax, and so figured, what the hell? Let's relax together. Let's shoot the shit. Let's talk about some things. So, what's up? How you guys been doing? Let's see what we got here. View with Drew. Hey, what's going on? Matthew Villegas, Lane Kramer, Richie Rich. Hope you're good because I happen to hit the mega million. I'm coming to your house. You're going to cook me a meal. I will charge no less than $50,000 per plate. Hey Cody, what is your favorite Tom Hanks movie? It's probably Forrest Gump. It's hard to not pick Forrest Gump, but man, do I love Big. Big is easily one of my favorites, and I'm a huge fan of Catch Me If You Can as well. That's one that not enough people really talk about. That's one of those Spielberg movies that kind of gets lost in the shuffle, it feels. But I love Catch Me If You Can. But yeah, Forrest Gump, man. There's something about that movie. It's just like it's one of those endlessly rewatchable movies to me. I'm never not in the mood for Forrest Gump. It's always heartwarming. So probably that one. Let's see here. What are 3 of your worst theater experiences and 3 of your best theater experiences? Well, my 3 worst, let's see. Most recently was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I've told the story a couple of times. I actually told it on a video I just did 2 days ago. No, yesterday. To where there was a guy to the right of me that literally took 3 phone calls in like the first hour of the movie, and not whispering phone calls, not like, "Hey, I'm in a movie, I'll call you back." Like none of that. It was just like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, I'm gonna call you tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. What's going on?" And I'm like, "What the fuck, dude?" Like, really? Like that's kind of bold. One time, I'm like, okay, maybe that was an important conversation, and this guy's just got a respectable level of don't give a fuck. But 2 more times, ugh. And then the lady to the left of me had a kid that just clearly did not want to be at the movies, which I get. You know, sometimes it happens. Um, I mean, my youngest daughter doesn't do very well in movies, even kids' movies. She's restless. She wants to get up. She wants to go. She wants to have conversations. And I'm like, shut up, stop talking. But then she handed him a tablet for him to play video games, and she had the brightness turned all the way down. And I was like, okay, it's not really distracting me too much. Extreme measures, I get it. But she lets him play it with the sound on. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And so I like loudly, like obnoxiously got out of my seat and moved. The other one that I can think of was Us. Got sat next to a couple that would not shut the fuck up the whole movie. The first hour, like every single time something was about to happen, they would say audibly what they thought was going to happen. And then they would like, if there was a scare, oh my God. Oh, that was so crazy. Oh man, did you jump too? And it was like this whole 30-second conversation. I'm like, what the fuck? And so, and again, violently, like aggressively changed my seat. And probably the worst one ever was, well, I don't know. Black Panther was pretty bad. That's probably the worst one of the worst ones, but one of the more infuriating ones, just because of pure ignorance. There was a woman in front of me, like the row in front of me at Lights Out, that little horror movie, and she was Snapchatting all of the scare scenes. So, you watch horror movies, when a scare's coming where the sound drops out and there's no score and it's just walking around in a hallway and you're like, okay, when's it coming? Every single time that happened, this bitch would pull out her cell phone, pull up Snapchat and hold it up. And it's just fucking just blinding everybody behind her. Record the entire scene until the scare happened and then stop recording and then spend the next 5 minutes like putting text and emojis like lights out, big time, awesome movie, heart emoji. And the third time that she did it, I went to go get somebody. And luckily, as I stood up, I saw that somebody from the theater was coming in. I was like, oh, thank God, somebody bit the bullet for me. And they kind of just went and stood in her general direction and she stopped doing it. But that was one where I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna enjoy getting you kicked out of the theater. Like literally just pirating the movie, pirating the scenes of the movie, and the most important scenes for the horror experience, you're fucking it up for everybody behind you. I hate people. Last of Us comes out tomorrow. Yes, it does. We're trying to move the stream to Saturday instead of Monday. Still in progress because my guest I haven't heard back from yet. And Rudy is undergoing a tiny, tiny little procedure tomorrow. And so notice how I said tiny Rudy, tiny little procedure tomorrow. Inside joke. But so he might be not up for it on Saturday. So we'll see. It might happen on Saturday. It might happen on Monday. But yes, The Last of Us does in fact drop tomorrow. So be sure you guys watch it. It's an awesome episode coming out. Who do you think played Michael Myers the best? As much as I'm very, take or leave his films, I think James Jude Courtney was the best Michael Myers. Honestly, he didn't. Unfortunately, his third film, he didn't get a whole lot to do. He could have really cemented himself to where there's no question. But yeah, I think he was the most menacing, the most imposing. He kind of embodied everything that I want my Michael Myers to be. So that is my pick. Just got back from Knock at the Cabin, and I agreed with your review. Seems like a lot of people do. I've seen a lot of people call out the ending of that movie being not so good. How is your impossible run going in Dead Space? I'm working my way through my first New Game Plus. I actually just started my impossible run this evening, actually, and I'm only in the first chapter because I just started it, got to my first save point, died 5 minutes later, and I was like, okay, I need to take a little break. But yeah, I played through the game, streamed it on Medium, just so that I could stream it and interact with everybody and not be so focused on the difficulty. Made the mistake of not realizing that you have to play hard to unlock impossible mode. Also, that I that there's a trophy for playing through the entire game with just the plasma cutter, and so I played most and beat my first New Game Plus on hard yesterday, and then last night through to about maybe 2 hours today, I did a quick little speed run on the easiest difficulty using just the plasma cutter. So the only trophy that I have left is beating it on impossible, which doesn't seem like it's going to be too bad because I didn't realize that you could save as many times as you want. Whenever it had the instructions, it's same difficulty as hard mode, but it's permadeath. And I was like, fuck, man, I've never played a game on permadeath. That just sounds like it's going to infuriate me. And it said one save slot. I'm like, okay, so fucking like 6 to 8 hour experience and you can only save once. Yeah, suck it. I'm not going to get that one. But it's just one save slot. I don't know what's so difficult about only having one save slot. I only use one save slot anyway. But so yeah, I'll be going through that at some point. I'm probably not going to stream it because it's hard to stream and entertain a crowd while going through an extreme difficulty. Just watch my last stream of the Callisto Protocol. It's just me raging. But yeah, one trophy left. Am I playing Resident Evil 4 when it drops in March? Are you high? Absolutely, I'm playing it. You're not gonna fucking see me for like the next month. That's all I'm gonna be doing. Better time than ever, or just as good a time as any to announce that on the gaming channel. For those of you that have not already become a subscriber, you need to. Cody Leach Game Chamber. And over there, I do all my game reviews. I also do live streams. I usually stream the newer games as I'm playing them, and then I'll review them and rank them. Got a Dead Space ranking coming out this weekend. But I'm going to start doing, my plan is weekly. Sometimes I get a little over ambitious, but my plan is weekly, one night a week to do a throwback game for like 2 hours. Maybe more. So that might be Wednesdays. It's probably going to be Thursdays. It wasn't supposed to be just because it's Throwback Thursday, but when I typically go see a new movie and come home and everybody's asleep anyway, so it's a perfect time for me to do it. And so what I will be doing, it's not necessarily going to be just on Thursdays, but I'm going to be doing live playthroughs of the original Resident Evil 4 on PS5 before the new one comes out. So if you're a fan of Resident Evil, be sure to subscribe over there, and we'll be playing through both of those games. Let's see here. All right, a couple super chats. Let me jump ahead. We got $5. Thank you so much. Let's see. Where are they at? Where are they at? Of course, the chat's going to jump. You fickle bitch. Okay. If there's one before this, let me know. Finally watching Breaking Bad, currently on season 3, and damn, so mad at myself for missing out. Yeah, man, I'm telling you. I'm glad that you were able to avoid spoilers if you were, in fact, able to avoid spoilers. But yeah, season 3 is where it really starts to get intense, and it just gets crazier from there. Hey, Cody, what's your opinion on the movie The Room? nothing really new or different than what everybody else says. I've only seen it once. I watched it before I went to go see The Disaster Artist with James Franco, and yeah, it's incompetent. It's horrible, but it's kind of funny and entertaining for how incompetent it is. It's not a movie that I could see myself watching all the time and having a blast with it. I do have a few of those movies that I kind of watch for sick enjoyment. The Happening, M. Night Shyamalan is one for me that it's so bad that I just love watching it and I just laugh my ass off the whole time. The Room wasn't quite that for me, but yeah, I mean, the reputation is there for a reason. What's up, Cody? Have you seen Tales from the Hood? It's a pretty underrated horror movie to me with some good messages despite some bad CGI in spots. No, I have never seen it. I've seen the poster a number of times, but no. Cody, just confront the person. The behavior is over the top rude. You shouldn't be scared. It's not that I'm scared. It has nothing to do with being scared. I have confronted people before, but I know if I confront the person and it's not like, okay, I apologize, I'm sorry, and that's it, then it's gonna get really bad and really loud because then I'm really pissed off. And so I just don't want to turn a situation that's just bothering me into a situation that's now going to fuck up the movie for the entire theater, if that makes any sense. So, like, if I had turned to the guy and was like, motherfucker, 3 phone calls, really? Really? And that turned into a thing, now that's a thing for the whole theater. And so it's about picking your battles. It's not about being scared. Would you be excited for a Nightmare on Elm Street TV series? It depends. It depends on what it is, where the TV series is going to be playing, what the story is, what the approach is. I mean, I'm somebody that thought that Child's Play was the TV series was going to be a horrible thing, and I really enjoyed the first season. Season 2 was kind of more what what I was thinking it was going to be, unfortunately. So let's hope season 3 is a little better. But yeah, this whole thing with the Friday the 13th, couldn't think of the name. Friday the 13th having a TV series, that's a weird idea, but it's so crazy it just might work. Um, I want some new Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. I want it to be good. I'm not desperate to have it at any cost. That's where some people and me disagree. They're like, "I just want it. I don't care if it's good or not." I'm like, "No, I want it to be good. Otherwise, just stay sleeping." But, yeah, I just want some new Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. I mean, fuck, we've got a Friday the 13th TV series. I believe they also said they're making a movie. And there's a reboot of I Know What You Did Last Summer coming out before we even hear a whisper of Freddy coming back around. It blows my mind. Let's see here. Will you ever do rankings reviews of Gears of War? Yeah. Yeah, at some point. I don't know about reviews. Review series for video games is much, much, much more difficult than movies because for a number of reasons. Number one, I mean, you're talking about what, at least 8 hours minimum for each of those games. And that's pretty average, I think, for most franchises. So that would be me putting what, 8 hours for one, two, three, four, at least 6 games that I can think of off the top of my head. So 8 times 6, that's just playing the game. Then there's the time to make all of the reviews. And Gears of War wouldn't necessarily fall into this because those games have aged pretty well and they're all on Game Pass. But some franchises, like Metal Gear Solid, for example, like if I wanted to play the original Metal Gear Solid, I would have to go and hook up one of my older systems or find an emulator of it somewhere. Silent Hill, that's actually a better example. So Silent Hill, let's say I want to do a Silent Hill review series. Well, the first one's not available anywhere. So I'm either going to have to find a PlayStation and find the game through eBay somewhere or play an emulator. Then you have Silent Hill 2 and 3 and there's a HD version of that, but then you have all these other games that I would have to literally purchase or find somewhere. And some of these franchises are very difficult to find older games. And older games don't age like older movies do. Like you can watch a movie from the 50s and still get why it had the impact it did in the 50s. It may not be something that would blow your skirt up today, but you can at least watch it and understand, like, okay, I get it. I get why Psycho was this huge thing. But you go back and try to play a game from like the original PlayStation or even some N64 games, and it's rough. Like I played Silent Hill 2 for the first time a couple of years ago. Yeah, for some reason I missed that game when it came out, but I played it on PlayStation Now, and it's just not the same experience. It's wonky, it's blocky, it's not that scary, and so it's very hard to go back and put yourself in the mental space of, okay, play this like it's 2002. It's 2002. You got to be in that mental space, and so it's so difficult. Rankings mostly for video game franchises that I already have experience with, that I've played all of them, that I remember what I felt like playing it for the first time, and I can play a little bit of it and get a little bit of that, you know, that little bit of that memory lane thing going. So that's where it's more difficult. But yes, at some point there will be a Gears of War 6, and I'll do something for it for sure. You look thin, you better be eating. Oh, I never go without eating, trust me. But yeah, I've been going to the gym, and I've been watching what I eat for watching what I eat for the most part. You know, I cheat a little bit here and there, but for a few months now. But I've been going to the gym 6 days a week for the past couple of weeks. So prepare for me to look thinner than I do right now. Let's see here. I think there was a couple more super chats. Have you ever thought about doing a review of the RoboCop series? And do you own the Nightmare on Elm Street box set? Yeah, I own that ugly ass piece of shit. Come on, Shout Factory. What the fuck? Nightmare on Elm Street has a terrible box set. A terrible box set. But yes, I own it. I've owned it since it first came out. A review of the RoboCop series. Well, I just did a ranking with the 31 on 31 last year with Monsters and Machines. A review series until they come out with a new movie, I probably wouldn't do that, just because there's got to be some kind of a conversation going on about it if it's not horror, because otherwise those videos will just crash and burn, and it's like wasting the one chance that I had to talk about RoboCop in a time when nobody cared to talk about RoboCop. So, like, for example, I'm going to be doing the Rocky movies. I'm going to be dropping. My plan is to drop the review for the first film on Valentine's Day, because it is one of the greatest love stories ever told. And then that whole next week basically is all Rocky reviews. But it's because Creed's coming out, so everybody's in Rocky mode. If I just did that randomly, like on August, I don't know how well that would do. So yeah, if there's a new RoboCop at some point, I'll probably do one. I believe you are being impersonated on Telegram, unless it was actually you, and I did win a PS5 and MacBook Pro from you. Guys, this is a widespread thing going on all over YouTube. There is so many channels and creators that are being impersonated by these comments. I promise you, if I ever feel like doing a giveaway, it's going to be stated in the video. I'm not going to randomly comment to you and be like, hey, you just won a $600 prize. That's not me. And it sounds like common sense, but unfortunately, I have had no less than 4 people message me saying that they had already given their personal information to this person before they decided that things seemed a little fishy. So, yes, if it's not my profile, if it doesn't say Cody Leach on it, it'll also have like a blue highlight or a blue check mark or something like that to tell you specifically that it is me and not just a channel with my name. There's all the red flags right there, but I will never do a giveaway in the comment section. If I ever plan to do a giveaway, it's going to be stated very clearly in the video. So please do not fall for this on my channel or anybody else's. And if you see these comments, report them, because I can only catch them. So I can only catch so many of them, and who knows how many people fall for them by the time I catch them. I report, I block, and I mute every single one that I find, but I'm only one man. Oh, what movie were you watching when someone said, yeah, suck a bitch? That's awesome. Who the fuck just texted me? Oh, it's my son. Hang on. Anyway, what movie were you watching when someone said, yeah, suck a bitch? Also, did you watch The Whale, and what did you think? Okay, so this is a story that I must have told before. It was the first Kick-Ass. And it was one of, like, there's that whole debate that I just kind of threw my hat into the ring yesterday with, talking in movie theaters and stuff. And look, and there's this moron on Twitter that I'm going back and forth on with too, that clearly I think he's doing the typical Twitter thing and acting a lot more stupid than he actually is. But nonetheless, there's a gigantic difference between a communal experience of laughing together and shouting together and getting scared together in a theater, and some asshole that's having a totally unrelated conversation in the middle of the movie or pulling out their cell phone. Most people with common sense understand that. But one of the moments that was like the good times of somebody just blurting something out. So the first Kick-Ass, there is a scene about 2/3 of the way through the movie to where you have Kick-Ass and you have, is it Big Daddy, the Nicolas Cage character? They're tied to chairs, they're being tortured on live TV, and right when they're about to kill them, out of nowhere, a bullet hits the dude in the head, and the feed goes blank, and it's Hit Girl. And when this happened in the theater, like it's real intense, everybody's into it. All of a sudden, and the cut goes back, and some guy randomly said in the theater, he goes, "Yeah, suck a bitch," and the whole theater fucking lost it. And so every single time I watch that movie now, I have to say that to myself. Whenever that happens, I'm like, "You suck a bitch," because it's part of my movie experience now. So it's the first Kick-Ass. Also, did you watch The Whale, and what did you think? I thought Brendan Fraser was incredible in it. All the acting in it is really good, actually. But Brendan Fraser, he's deserving of all the hype that he's getting. I would say that between him and Austin Butler, they're the two front runners for Best Actor. I'd be shocked if anybody else gets it. Um, but I didn't really care for the movie too much. It's Darren Aronofsky's not really a filmmaker that I've cared for anything that he's done, especially Mother. Oh. But it's the whole movie is centered around Brendan Fraser, who is this morbidly obese guy that's essentially trying to eat himself to death. And before he dies, he's trying to make amends with his estranged daughter, who he kind of abandoned, played by Sadie Sink, the redheaded girl from Stranger Things. And so the whole movie is played out like a play to where people come in and out of his house, and it's his daughter, then it's his handler, his caretaker, then it's his ex-wife who he's estranged from, and then it's his daughter again. And his daughter, Sadie Sink's character, is one of the most despicable movie characters I've seen in a very long time. She is a horrendous person. And so the story they're trying to get you to buy into, which is that he believes that she's a truly good person, but he fucked her up and he's trying to do what he can to kind of set her on the right path. I couldn't invest myself in it because she is just so reprehensible as a person, just continuously everything she does and says is just like, okay, just go fucking take a 20-mile hike off a 10-mile bridge, like seriously. It's just she's just so yeah, all of that put together, and with the different themes they're going for, the darkness and sadness of it, it's a movie that I would only ever watch once. um yeah, so there you go. What do we got here? Why does Friday the 13th get so much hate? The movie of awesome? I don't know. I'll never be able to answer that question. Doesn't make any sense to me. You've got the Friday the 13th diehards. Look, Friday the 13th, 2009, it's a slasher film, and it's not one of the greatest of all time. It's just a solid slasher film. So it's not like if you don't like slashers or you don't like horror, it's not like I can't understand why you would think that movie's not all that great. What always confuses me is why Friday the 13th fans don't think it's all that great. And the reasons that they give. They're like, "Well, the characters aren't all that great." I'm like, "Are the characters good in any of the Friday the 13th movies? Like, with the exception of maybe the final chapter? Any of them? No? The characters are all annoying. Uh, Jason doesn't run. Jason doesn't take prisoners." I'm like, "Okay." He had a shrine of his mother's decapitated, rotting head and her sweater, and was able to be fooled that a completely different person that looks nothing like his mother was just wearing the sweater, and that mentally fucked him up. That character, you're telling me if you had somebody that looked almost identical to his mom, that he wouldn't take her and keep her as some kind of a memoir prize? It made sense to me. Um, a lot of the things against that movie just it doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. If you hate on that movie, you better hate on most of that franchise. Otherwise, I don't understand what you're talking about. There's too much sex. That's the other one. Too much nudity. It's just there's too much nudity. I'm like, it's a fucking Friday the 13th film. That's all you guys have is blood and tits. Ugh. See, you got me going. Seeing a couple of people. Hey, yeah, don't spam. Don't spam, because that's the quickest way to get me to not answer your question, and I do have a mute button. I'm gonna answer your question just because I've got it up here. Have you ever seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? No, I haven't, but please do not spam anybody, because, yeah, that's not a way to get your question read. Okay, man, choose one to make a new story for. Jeepers Creepers, Ty West, or the director from Terrifier, or someone else can you think of? Fucking Lever Channel. Well, thank you. Choose one to make a new story for. Well, you got a movie and then you got two directors. Um, I mean, I'm kind of done with Jeepers Creepers for now. I don't really want any more Jeepers Creepers. They've lost my faith for the foreseeable future. Ty West, that's a guy that I just kind of want to leave alone, and he can do his own thing because he's still got Maxine coming out, and I never would have saw the X trilogy coming, so I don't really want to put him on any path. As far as Damian Leone, so after he wraps up Terrifier, and I don't know if he's only planning on doing three, but obviously they're going to do a third one. After he wraps up Terrifier, I would like to see him do something else as far as getting out of like the splatterhouse kind of throwback ultra gore slashers. I would be curious to see what he would do with something that's more story based. That's one of the reasons why I like the second one so much more than the first one because there is more story, more characters, more lore, stuff like that. So I would be curious to see what his style would lend to a totally different type of movie. What do you think will be the best horror movie this year? Oh, I don't know. There's so many of them that we probably don't even know about yet. I mean, horror is not like comic book films where we know it's coming 2 years out, unless it's Halloween. But, you have I mean, Scream 6 is the only one that Scream 6 and Evil Dead Rise are the only 2 I can even think of off the top of my head that are coming out this year. If you look at just the movies that I saw last year, the vast majority of them are movies that I didn't see coming. I had no idea they were coming out, or I walked into blind, X and Pearl included in that. So I really don't know. Of the 2, if I had to say between Scream 6 and Evil Dead Rise, which one do I think is gonna be better? I'm thinking Evil Dead Rise is probably gonna be a little bit better. But, yeah. Alright. Which cut of T2 and Aliens do you prefer and why? What are some 4K Blu-rays that you recommend? Love from India. Hey, all the way from India. Which cut of T2 and Aliens? I think that the theatrical cut and the director's cut of T2 are both awesome. Here's the complicated part with T2. 'Cause the added stuff in T2 that I love is the scene where Sarah Connor's about to smash his microchip whenever they're swapping it out, and John Connor has to convince her to let the T-800 live. And I love in the final act of the movie when the T-1000, whenever he gets frozen and then melted, he kinda gets glitchy and fucked up, and so, like, he grabs a pole and his hand molds into the pole and his feet turn into the different colors. I love that. The scene that I can do without in the director's cut is the smile scene where he's trying to teach the T-800 to smile. I never really got much out of that one. Um and the theatrical cut is a perfect movie. So I don't know. Maybe the theatrical cut by a hair, but really, if you could give me that happy medium of most of the director's cut without that smile scene, that's my ultimate cut of that movie. Aliens, absolutely the director's cut because there's a lot more focus on the theme of motherhood. There's a lot more focus on Newt, and so I think that's actually a stronger story in the director's cut. What are some 4K Blu-rays you recommend? I'm not really a passionate guy when it comes to talking about physical media and which ones are better. A lot of times when I buy movies, it's months before I even get a chance to watch them anyway, so I don't really have a pick for you. As an up and coming YouTuber, do you recommend quality or quantity? Always quality. Should I do fewer videos and focus more on editing quality or just pump out as much as possible and quickly as possible? I mean, you can do both. That's the beauty of the whole thing with YouTube Shorts now is that you can do content throughout the week to get discovered that doesn't take a whole lot of time, but always quality over quantity. And that's something that I've had to take a look in the mirror at sometimes. Like when I first went full time, it was like, okay, a video a day. Unless I'm doing a video a day, I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough. And so I started to notice that I was just doing so much for quantity. I got to get today's video. I got to get tomorrow's video. I got to get the next video that I was never taking the time to try to make each video the best video that it could be. And so it's just about balance. but I would say always quality over quantity. You know, people will click on your video and they will watch more of it and they will subscribe and try to check out more of your channel if the video is really good. They're not going to click your video and be like, "Well, this is decent, but he's got a lot of videos, so I'm just going to subscribe because there's a ton of shit here." It's never that way. Let's see here. Oh, that's from 20 minutes ago. So hopefully he stopped. Can you review 30 Days of Night? It's at some point. I'm going to be talking about that. Yes, some point before long. What are your thoughts on the Stallone and producer Irwin Winkler situation, the Creed 3 drama? Do you think that Stallone deserves to own the rights to the franchise? That's a complicated one. I don't know the specifics of I don't know the specifics of what exactly happened there besides the fact that Stallone just wants the rights and this guy isn't giving it to him. Um, Stallone is Rocky. He's the creator of Rocky. He's the life of Rocky, and Creed is an extension of the Rocky franchise. It stands on its own well enough, or at least we'll see if it does in March. But there's not a Rocky fan out there that's not probably going to lean on Stallone's side on this one because that's Rocky. But the unfortunate reality is that the movie business is a business. So if nowhere along the way Stallone secured some kind of a deal to get the rights, then it is what it is. I mean, you can have a debate all day long about whether or not he's owed the rights to it because it is his baby, because he has shepherded it. He's directed most of the movies. He is, he's the lifeblood of that franchise. It's nothing without him. But at the same time, legally, within contract speak, is he owed anything? I don't know. That's the weird thing about business versus what sounds right. I can tell you that I'm not as excited for Creed 3 as I would be because of all the drama, because it feels dirty. It feels dirty to be looking forward to a Rocky movie that Rocky himself is like, yeah, fuck that movie. But yeah, I don't know. I would like just the story for the story of it for Stallone to have the rights to that franchise, but at the same time, I'm realistic and I know that the studio that he sold it to, they don't have any obligation to just hand it over to him because it sounds good, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, somewhere in the middle on that one. Cody's right about picking battles. Every time I confront bad moviegoers, either results in them playing the victim or mocking me back. And the second one is where things would not go very well because I don't tolerate being mocked. I don't tolerate people. There's one thing if you're already being an asshole, and if I point it out to you, and you're gonna double down and dig your feet in the sand and be a bigger asshole. Okay. Okay. I think I can be a bigger asshole than you, but we'll see. So yeah, it's not worth it most of the time. And you never know what fucking psycho is gonna pull out a knife or a gun. I mean, it sounds stupid, but nowadays you never fucking know over the dumbest shit. Hey, be quiet. Shut up. I mean, you don't know. Hey, any tips on moving to Georgia for the first time? I'm from New Jersey and I just want a fresh start, being that I'm going to be turning 23 this year. I know it's going to be a risk. Not really. I guess it depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for kind of quiet country life? Are you looking to be next to a city? Do you want to be able to go to the movies and concerts and stuff like that? Because that's going to be the big factor on where in Georgia you want to live. Because out here where I live, if I want to go see anything significant, concert wise or anything like that, you're either driving to Jacksonville or Orlando, which is either 2 hours or 4 hours south, or you're driving to Atlanta, which is 4 hours west. There's not a whole lot in between. Savannah, for as much of a tourist town that it is, it has no music scene. Luckily, they have the End Market Arena that finally got built, so we're now finally starting to get some concerts and some, comedy acts and things like that. But that's just a brand new thing. But yeah, it all depends on what exactly you're wanting from your fresh restart. Vampires and werewolves for 31 on 31. Maybe. Maybe. Haven't seen much of your cooking on Instagram lately. Haven't been cooking lately that much. I've been too fucking tired. Yeah, I don't know. My wife was gone for most of this week, and so it's been like DoorDash for a couple of days, which sucks. Like it feels so good whenever I can just click a button and food arrives, but then it sucks when I think about how much money I just paid for that meal. But yeah, I haven't really done a whole lot of cooking here lately, so that is primarily why. But provided that things don't get crazier, I do plan to do some kind of cooking channel, cooking based content maybe this summer. So we'll see. Oh, keep on trucking. Silent Hill 2 is my favorite game of all time. I didn't play it until a decade after its release. In my opinion, age doesn't determine a good game. Well, it's not that it determines a good game, but games do not age as well as movies was the point that I was making. You can go on the shelf, pop in a movie from the 1950s and just sit down and watch it and you can experience a movie from the 1950s. But there are so many other things at play when you play an older game. There's graphics, there's frame rate, there's the control scheme. I mean, just trying to control older games, you would be amazed at how spoiled you get playing modern games and how fluid they are with modern game making and modern controls. And then you go back and try to play something even from just the PS2 era, and you're like, "What the fuck is this? I can't even move right." And so it's just there's a whole lot of other things at play that make a game age poorly that compared to a movie. But there's some games that doesn't have, an effect. There are some games that you can play that age really well. Um, so, like, for example, some of the Resident Evil games, I think age pretty decent. Not so much the tank control ones, but some of the ones that are, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, and all that. What was the game that I was playing not too long ago? Fuck. Um, the Dead Space games age really well. I just played all 3 of those before the new one came out. There was something else that I played. GoldenEye 007 that just came out on Game Pass. That actually aged pretty well, surprisingly. I was fearful when I clicked on that. I was like, "Oh, man, I hope this doesn't, like, change the love that I've had for this game because I haven't played it in a couple decades." And I popped it in and played it, and I'm like, "Well, I mean, obviously, it's an older game, but it still ages pretty well for the simplistic shooter that it was." So, some games age really well, some games do not. Let's see. Question: I'm making a film next month, first time directing. All right, congratulations, and good luck. I have an Indiegogo going. I was wondering if I could share in the chat. Yeah, feel free. Go ahead, please. So everybody, if you haven't already left, which I don't assume you would, go ahead and check out his Indiegogo if you would like to possibly contribute to it. Michael Entity, what's a film that was received poorly from both audiences and critics, but you yourself saw something special in it? Oh God, that's hard to say off the top of my head. Um, I remember that King Arthur movie that came out, the one that had Jax from Sons of Anarchy. Everybody shit on that one, and I actually thought it was a lot of fun. The one that Guy Ritchie made. So that's one that I actually got to see it early. So that was one of the only early reviews that I had back in my first couple of years on YouTube, and I was kind of surprised that more people didn't like it. It's not typically my type of thing. I'm not really a big fantasy guy, but I went and saw it, and I was like, that was actually pretty fucking fun. I like that one, and I put my review out, and then everybody else saw it, and they were like, so that's the only one that comes to the top of my head. I'm sure there's some other ones. It tends to be the other way around. Tends to be movies that everybody gushes over that I'm like, there's not too many where everybody's shitting on it, and I'm like, what are you talking about? This one's great. Are you going to see Cocaine Bear? Yes. Unfortunately, that weekend is going to be fucking stacked. So that's next week. So on the 16th, I have Winnie. No, on the 15th. On the 15th, I'm seeing that stupid ass Winnie the Pooh movie. And I'll be reviewing that on Thursday. On Thursday, I'm seeing Ant-Man, and we'll be reviewing that on Friday. And on Friday, I'm seeing Cocaine Bear, and we'll be reviewing that on Saturday. And then there's also this movie, We See a Ghost or something like that, that's on Netflix that I've applied to try to get the screener for, and that also releases that weekend. So that might be like 4 new releases in 3 or 4 days. But yes, I am going to be seeing it. Nitpick, I think they should make the bear bigger than 500 pounds. I wish they would have made it a gigantic 1,000-pound bear. Still intrigued. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but you tell me the premise, and I'm like, yep, yep. Who should play Cody Leach in a potential biopic? Okay, so let's do a poll. Either Leo DiCaprio, Ryan Reynolds, Tom Hardy. Let's see here. Will you ever do a ranking of Neil ranking? Ranking. Will you ever do a ranking of Neil Marshall films? Maybe, I guess. Maybe if he does a new one. That's the guy that did The Descent and Dog Soldiers, I believe. So maybe. Any altercations with a nuisance inside a theater? No, I had an altercation with a guy at a concert just a couple of weeks ago, though. I was at Alter Bridge and Mammoth Wolfgang Van Halen in Orlando, the Hard Rock. And, Alter Bridge has got some heavy stuff, but that's not like there's certain bands where it makes sense to have mosh pits. I still hate mosh pits. I still get really pissed off when I pay for a ticket. And I swear I'm a magnet for them too. No matter where the fuck I am in the crowd, that's where the pit starts. I can't stand it, especially if I'm with my wife, because then I have to be extra protective. Because you can get fucked up in a mosh pit. You can get fucked up just standing next to a mosh pit if you've never been to a rock show. I mean, out of nowhere, you just suddenly you're getting shoved. You don't know why. So Alter Bridge, it's got some heavy stuff, but they're not what I would call a band that makes sense for mosh pits. And the crowd agreed because out of the entire crowd of people, there was only one fucking guy that kept trying to start moshes. And he succeeded once during Mammoth Wolfgang Van Halen. And there was like maybe 5 people in the pit, and I was getting pissed because it was just in front of me. I'm like, every fucking time, dude, I don't care where I go, it's always like 3 people away from me. But they stopped because this guy turned around. He's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, no. And he's like, all right, yeah. And you could tell he was like a cocky little military dude because he's got his little fucking regulation mustache. So he was just out to just be the tough guy, I guess. And about 7, 8 songs into Alter Bridge, he starts doing it again. And this time, nobody is joining the mosh pit. And so rather than stop when he's, bumping in and trying to do circles and do all that stuff, rather than stop, he literally starts grabbing dudes and like pulling them in. One of them was this young scrawny guy. And then he ended up like running, like literally just flailing himself into these 2 young girls and my wife. And so I walked right out into the middle of the pit and fucking snatched his little ass and screamed at him. I was like, fucking stop, asshole. And I didn't even know if you could hear him because, when music's going on, you could scream at the top of your lungs and it's just like, but he turned around. He's like, it's all good. It's all good. I don't know if he was drunk or what. He didn't seem to be drunk when he was standing there. But yeah, I was fucking talk about seeing red. As soon as I saw those girls topple over and my wife get knocked backwards, I was just like, and like fucking floated out into the floor. So no, that's the only altercation that I've had in any recent time. How would you rewrite a Blumhouse Halloween trilogy? I would have taken at least taken it out or made the humor a lot better in Halloween 2018. And I would not have ended it the way that they ended it. I would have made it very clear that Michael was either I would have either ended it definitively right there, or if I had to do 2, and I would have done 2, not fucking 3. I would have made it to where it was a victory similar to that, but it was very clear that Michael busts out or something like that. And this is off the top of my head, so I would literally have to sit down to do anything compelling. This is not going to be a compelling rewrite here live. And then the second film, I would have done something to where like the different things that they were trying to go for in Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, just put them in one movie. I mean, have it to where the whole town is riled against him. Finally, people are standing up. You get the legacy characters in there. And by the end of it, they fucking win. They take his ass out. Finally, you have a whole town rising against him. That's how you kill him. That's what makes sense. When you got a guy that's a fucking Hulk and has been taking people out and is literally smashing heads with one stomp and breaking people in half or whatever, how are you going to make sense of him finally dying? You don't put him in a fucking sewer and make it seem like he's dying of COVID the whole movie, and then he's just too weak to do anything by the end of it. No, you just make the whole town rise against him and they fuck his ass up. And so those are just simple notes that I would give just using the skeleton of what they already have. But if I was to do my own, it would be something completely different, but I can't do it live just off the top of my head. If you were going to tell me about Freddy or something, I could probably rattle off something, but not Michael Myers. What do you think about Carpenter's Ghost of Mars? I've only seen it once. It's been years. I remember nothing about it, but I'll be reviewing it here before long because I'm reviewing his films. You seen Flash? Favorite season? 2 for me. I've only seen the first 3 seasons because I lost interest in Arrow in season 4, and then season 3 of Flash I lost interest as well. But of the two, I did like season 2 better. So yeah, I would agree with you because Zoom was pretty awesome. All right. Let's see. Slowly getting caught up. Top 3 characters in Breaking Bad besides Walt. Mike is my favorite character no matter what, even if we're including Walt. Mike's my number 1. Walt would have been my number 2, but if we're gonna be taking Walt out of it, it's gonna be Mike, Jimmy or Saul, and probably Jesse. Probably Jesse. But that would be a hard top 5 because all 5 of them would be damn near tied. 'Cause if I had to do a top 5, you would have Gus in there, and then you would also have probably Hank. But, yeah, there's so many incredible characters in both of those shows. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Flash movie? Any thoughts on Michael Keaton's return as Batman? Will it be any good? I have no idea if it's going to be any good, but all I hear is that it is really good. People in the studio, people that have seen test screenings of it, everybody is saying that it's really good. And that's the only I believe those reports because if it sucked, they would just scrap it and say, okay, this is not worth the fucking headache, just like they did with Batgirl. But now it's even easier because of all the Ezra bullshit. So it only makes sense to me that they're going through all this trouble and eating so much shit online for not properly addressing the things that Ezra has done because the movie's really fucking good. And they're like, damn, I can't waste this. So I assume it's going to be really fun. It's going to be weird to watch though, because if you have a pre-established opinion on Ezra, are you going to be able to turn that off and just watch the character? I don't know. My thoughts on Michael Keaton's return. I think that's going to be the main focus of the marketing. I think that's going to be the main focus on the poster. It's going to be the main focus of the movie. So I'm intrigued by it. I'm not somebody that was a diehard of the Burton films by any stretch. So I'm not as over the moon excited as some others, but I'm sure it's going to be cool regardless. So we shall see. I also thought Puss in Boots 2 was just okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm not really a big um animated movies. I've kind of lost my interest in. Like for a long time I could watch them and I could really enjoy them. And there's older ones that I already have love for that I can watch on occasion, but I'm just never really in the mood to watch an animated film. Never. And even going to the theater to see them, I'm just like, okay. And so Puss in Boots 2, everybody was raving about it like it was this giant shock, like, holy shit, this movie has no right to be this fucking good. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, it's it's fine. The first 2 Shreks are both better and both funnier to me, but it was fine. Villain was cool, but, yeah, I don't know, that was a weird one to where I didn't understand the hype with that one. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Stop it!
Right on cue. Is there anything worth seeing at the theater this weekend? I don't think so. I looked and I was like, I'm not going to see Magic Mike. So guess I'll see you next week. Did you know about the hidden version of T2 on the DVD? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a Jewish gamer insecure about streaming because of my nose. You inspire me, Cody. You and your nose rocks. Whatever me and my nose can do to inspire others, I'm going to do it. Damn it. Don't be self-conscious about streaming or whatever. I mean, we all have our physical, call them flaws or insecurities or whatever. I mean, I'm not a fucking 10 out of 10, but just like, who cares? As long as you're entertaining or you're a funny person or whatever, that's all that really matters. Imagine what a Coen Brothers A24 movie would look like. The Coens having a quirky way of storytelling, and most A24 movies also being very strange. I don't know. Like Coen Brothers are not my cup of tea too much as it is. You throw in A24, and that just has a recipe for not being my thing whatsoever. I love No Country for Old Men. Um, I haven't seen a lot of their movies, but yeah, their quirkiness is not really my thing. Will you be making a trip to MegaCon this year? Maybe. Sean has talked to me about it. He's got some very ambitious ideas for MegaCon. The issue with me is that the invite is kind of more on the pretext of me running my own panel and me doing my own thing. And I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Uh, whenever I went to MegaCon last year with Sean, that was Sean's thing. It was Sean's panel, and I was just a guest. And that was kind of more of a challenge for myself to see if I could do public speaking and if I was okay with it and if I didn't have like the fear of public speaking that I had when I was younger. And so that was more of a kind of face your fears type of thing for me. But going from that to then less than a year later running my own panel, I don't know if I'm ready to do that or not. We're still talking about it. It's still possible. It's also possible that I might just go and join him for something. I don't know. The plans for that MegaCon are very all over the place right now, because there's so many different things that he's exploring. So maybe if and when it becomes for sure, you'll see both of us probably make an announcement on it, but not sure yet. You looking forward to the Michael Jackson biopic? Antoine Fuqua was the director. I'm interested just because Antoine Fuqua is the director, because that's a very interesting pick. He's typically the action thriller guy. Um, um, so him doing a biopic in general is interesting to me. And Michael Jackson. The thing that's weird about it is that, like, I love biopics, but most of them have the issue of not really wanting to tell the true story and wanting to dance around details. Like, for as much as I love, and I genuinely love this movie, for as much as I love Bohemian Rhapsody, that was a very glossy version of that whole story and a very glossy, martyrized tale of Freddie Mercury. And so when I want to see a biopic, I want to see the real story. I want to be educated on what actually happened. That's one of the reasons why I liked Elvis so much, because as much as I've heard Elvis music throughout my life, I never knew the tragedy of that guy's life. Not to say that there aren't some things in the movie that's bullshit, but for the most part, that's the darker Elvis story. And so Michael Jackson's got a lot of fucked up things in his legacy. Whether or not they're true or not, we'll never probably know. But, you have a lot of things with that guy, with a lot of controversies, a lot of things in his legacy that are not bright and shiny. And how are they going to explore that? That's what my big question is. It's one of the reasons why I don't want a Metallica biopic, especially while Metallica is alive, because it's going to be the glossiest, we're the best band ever, we never did anything wrong biopic ever made. And I want to see the fucked up true story when I see these. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Antoine Fuqua is the reason why I'm curious, though. Where do you see Terrifier 3 going after the ending to 2? I would assume that you're going to start to get more definitive answers of what or who Art is and what his connection to Sienna and her brother are, and what the deal is going on with Sienna's father. And um, at least I hope so. I mean, because that was my main frustration with Terrifier 2, is that it introduces so many things, but it leaves you with more questions than you had. And it's just like, fuck, dude, 2 hours and 15, 2 hours and 18 minutes, and you still got no answers. So Terrifier 3, if we go through that movie and all they do is introduce more stuff and still don't answer anything, I'll be extremely frustrated. But I doubt they're going to do that. So that's where I see it going. What are your thoughts on the TV show You? I watched a few episodes with my wife when she was watching season 1. Wasn't really my thing. Seemed like a social media kind of ripoff of Dexter. And I never really gave it a chance beyond that. So I could be missing out on a show that I like, but a few episodes that I watched didn't really draw me in. A lot of people seem to like it though. Thank you, man. Your videos make work pass by so much faster. Any thoughts on the new Spider-Man Noir series? Have you ever checked out Nightcrawler, the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal? Yeah, it's fucking awesome. It's a really, really good movie. One of the best ones that came out that year. Spider-Man Noir, no, I don't really have much knowledge of that. That's the character that Nick Cage voiced in Spider-Verse, but no, is beyond that, I don't know anything about it. Where do you draw the line when introducing your kids to horror? I draw the line at an X rating. No, but it depends. This is it, and it's not just with movies, just parenting in general. I was talking about this on Twitter the other day. Somebody had posted something about being outraged, being horrified at this post where I guess a parent had literally taken the door off of their kid's room as a punishment. And it was, people were debating back and forth, mostly because of the way that the tone of what the original poster said, mostly people going savagely against anything like that. And similar to this same thing with when to introduce your kids to horror, or what your lines are. Every kid is different. Every kid is different, and what works for one won't necessarily work for the other, even in the same family. So, like, if you're talking specifically with horror, when I first met my wife, and Shane was 7 at the time, Bella was 4, Riley didn't exist. Bella took to horror almost immediately, where she would just kind of see me watching it and kind of get enamored with it and kind of have fun with it. Shane took a while. And I think it was mostly because his grandmother and Holly and a couple of people convinced him that he was scared. "Oh, you can't watch that, you'll be scared." And so if he saw anything horror, and like I put Poltergeist on for him one night and he started crying. So he was a lot different of a process than it was with Bella or with my youngest. My youngest took to horror immediately too. She's a lot like me. So it depends. Some kids can't really separate the fact that it's fiction with reality. And so you have to be careful with them. You don't want to scar them. You don't want them to be sitting, awake till 2 a.m. because they're petrified to close their eyes. And then you have other kids that know immediately. Like I knew I was 4 years old watching horror movies and I knew it was fake. It never scared me. I'm like, Freddy is in a fucking movie. This is pretend. This is make believe. Fictional characters. So you just got to know your kids. You just got to know your kids. And that goes for anything. Horror, how you talk with them, the punishments for whatever they do, whatever. Every kid is different. I mean, just the 3 that I've had, it's not been the same trials and tribulations for all 3. It's been very different. Just want to say I appreciate you. If nobody else doesn't, I do. Well, I appreciate that, Devin. I appreciate that you appreciate me. Thoughts on the new I Know What You Did Last Summer movie in the works? Also, would you rather get a new Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th movie? Well, obviously a Nightmare on Elm Street. That goes without saying. I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot. It's interesting. It's interesting mostly because I really have always liked Freddie Prinze Jr. And it kind of bummed me out that he didn't act as much. So I've always liked that guy. He's one of those guys that came up kind of in my generation. Movies like She's All That, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scooby Doo, some other ones. And so I've always really liked that guy and wanted to see him do more. So I'm excited more than anything else about having him back, believe it or not. But it is cool. You got him, you got Jennifer Love Hewitt back, who I love as well for different reasons. But you have both of them coming back. I'm assuming it's going to be a direct sequel to the original, like everybody else is doing. They're going to delete the others. I don't hate. I still Know What You Did Last Summer, but it's definitely an inferior movie. I'm just curious. Story is what they're going to have to do. So when I find out what the story is, that's when I'll get either really excited or I'll go, oh, it's nothing to be excited about. So we'll see. But I'm intrigued. Now, where's my Faculty Legacy sequel, you fucking cowards? Get on that shit. Spencer, appreciate it. Posted, thank you so much. It's called Everybody Has Secrets. And there you go, guys. You saw it before I did, but go check it out. Can you review all 3 Slumber Party Massacre movies? A lot of these questions, at some point I will. I have 2 approaches to when I choose to do review series. One of them is obviously to coincide with new releases. So like Rocky, if I haven't done it before. But for the most part, it's just my mood. It's what mood am I in? Am I in the mood to tackle these movies? Because those are what's going to produce the best reviews. Because that means I'm in the mood to check these out. I'm in the mood to talk about them. I'm in the mood to experience them. I'm in the mood to celebrate certain ones and shit on others. And so it just depends on whether I'm ready to take it on or not. And so eventually, yeah, I'll get to Slumber Party Massacre. When, I don't know. So like example, this past December, I had every intention of doing a Silent Night, Deadly Night review series. I've already reviewed the first one a few years back, but I bought the second one last year and never watched it. And then they had that 3-pack come out with all the rest of them. And so I was like, well, shit, perfect time. I'll run through these this December. And I watched the second film and I was like, oh no, I'm not in the mood for 4 more of these. I can't fucking do it. I don't have the strength right now. So I bagged that. Otherwise, it would have been I just saw a review series where I would not have had very much nice to say. and that's not fun for me. What does Marcellus Wallace look like? Does he look like a bitch? He's big. He's black. Will you be making a trip to MegaCon? Well, I got your question answered already. Opinion on Jackass movies? They're fun for a one-time watch. Like they're not movies that I would necessarily get in the mood for. It's fun when they come out and you go watch it in a theater with people because people are just laughing their ass off at the ridiculousness of it the whole time. But they're not movies I would ever like rewatch. I'm never in a mood like, hey, let's throw in Jackass 2. So they have their purpose and they fulfill that purpose. Do you write the intro outro songs in your videos? No, actually, he doesn't go by this name anymore, but he used to be called Stay Metal Ray on YouTube. I believe now he goes by Xander Raymond Charles, but he is a music YouTuber. He does guitar instructionals. He reviews guitars and plugins and amplifiers and stuff like that. He's been a good friend of mine for a while. He actually wrote and recorded those for me. I had an old intro and outro that was a royalty-free song that I used for a few years, and I had a really scary incident to where royalty-free, for those that don't know, means that there's no copyright on it. It means you can use it as much as you want. Nobody can claim it or demonetize you for using it. They're free for everybody to use. It's like public domain, kind of. And so I had used it for like 3 years of videos. And some guy had taken that royalty-free song and recorded vocals over it and then put out like a copyright for his version illegally. And suddenly a bunch of my videos got copyright claimed for that royalty-free song. And I went through and I dug through and I traced it all the way back to him. It wasn't even good vocals either. It was just like a shitty like laptop microphone of him going, rah, rah, rah. But nonetheless, I had to contact YouTube. I had to contact the people that were holding his copyright. I had to contact the guy that I'd go through a huge rabbit hole and find the guy that actually recorded and holds the rights to that royalty-free song. I had to do a whole bunch of shit to try to get that thing removed because otherwise I would have lost monetization on like 3 years worth of content potentially. And so in the middle of all that, I contacted him. I was like, dude, is there any way that you can like, because I see him write and record random stuff all the time. Is there any way that you can record an intro, outro for me? And within like an hour, he had that for me. So he's the fucking man. So yes, if you like those, check out, I believe it's Xander Xander, Xander Raymond Charles. But if you search Stay Metal Ray, it should still bring up his channel because that's what it was known for years. Thank you so much. Who would you want to play the new Freddy Krueger, and would you be okay with Blumhouse remaking a new trilogy? I would not be super excited about Blumhouse getting it. I would hope that somebody else would do it. Who? I would want it to be a fairly unknown actor, just like Robert Englund was back in 1984. I want somebody that you don't really have a lot of experience with or have no experience with, so that when they show up as Freddy, they're just Freddy. Like if you cast somebody, like everybody said Kevin Bacon for a while there, if you cast Kevin Bacon as Freddy, when you see Freddy, you're going to see Kevin Bacon. Robert Englund was Freddy before Robert Englund was a thing. He had done some stuff, but he wasn't a big known actor. So you got to have somebody that can disappear like that. You can't go and cast somebody that is an A-list actor so you could slap him on the poster because he's never going to be able to become Freddy completely. Not the way that Robert Englund did. But yeah, as far as Blumhouse, look, I mean, they succeeded with Halloween. A lot of people like those movies more than I do, but they succeeded with that. And now they've greenlit the whole trilogy of Exorcist movies that I think is a terrible idea, but time will tell. And he's been talking about wanting to get the rights to Freddy and all this other stuff. I don't want all of these properties underneath Jason Blum. He's got a very specific way of producing movies and a certain style to Blumhouse movies. And there's just no quality control at Blumhouse. That's why I don't, it's not a name that I trust because inevitably every year there's at least one Blumhouse movie that's like in my top 5, top 10. And there's like 1 or 2 that are some of the worst of the year. Like last year you had Black Phone and then you also had They, Them. And so they just produce anything to make a profit. And so I don't want that type of management with a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. If a Nightmare on Elm Street movie finally gets greenlit and it comes out and it sucks, say goodbye to that franchise for a foreseeable future. And it already feels like it's been an eternity. Ever consider doing a Sons of Anarchy ranking? It came close to being a Patreon pick a number of times. Yeah, I've come close a couple of times. Recently watched As Above, So Below, and I think it's super underrated. I've actually never seen it. I've never seen that one. That was one of the ones that was like a found footage. It was like a January, February found footage movie, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I don't know, but I've never seen it. Truly love your videos, bro. Thank you. The only thing I got to ask is what movie gave you the worst theater experience of all time? Just had a really bad one today watching A Man Called Otto. I actually answered that question in the first couple of minutes. But as far as the worst one of all time is probably Lights Out, where I had a woman who was recording all the scare scenes in the movie for Snapchats. But I give a more expansive answer at the beginning of the video if you want to go back and listen to that one. Alex gives $1. Thank you. Heaviest band you listen to? For as much as I love rock and heavy metal, there is a limit. You know, a lot of the heavier bands tend to be the Cookie Monster vocals and stuff like that, and I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. I have to have good vocals in my music. Probably the heaviest that I listen to is Kill Switch Engage, because they have a little bit of that scream and stuff, but they it's not the whole thing, and there's still a certain quality to the voice even when they are doing that. There's also Slipknot that's pretty heavy, but I don't listen to very much Slipknot. Slipknot's a little much for me. So probably Kill Switch Engage. Playing RE4, ready for the remake in March? Absolutely. Absolutely ready. Here's our next DoorDash tip, Bozo. Don't let me find out you shared this with Sean Chandler. Thank you so much. Cody, in the area of ubiquitous reboots, sequel series, it baffles me that no one wants to bring back The Shield. Yeah, I kind of feel like I've been waiting, feeling like that announcement's like just on the tip of somebody's tongue. Because we're getting Justified and some other ones. I've been waiting, like, okay, this is a perfect time for Vic Mackey to come back, and I don't know why. I don't know why, if they don't want to do it, or if maybe maybe a rights issue, or there's plans for it. We just don't know about it yet. But yeah, that is one that I've been waiting for. Do you own a Halloween Ends on any physical media? I own the Best Buy Steelbook. I own the Best Buy Steelbook of all three of that trilogy. Forspoken is a good game, nothing groundbreaking, but a solid entry into PlayStation's catalog. Unfortunately, I played the demo, and I've got like a sixth sense with games. Movies you never quite know. Sometimes you do, but games I always can have like a vibe of whether or not it's going to be good or not, and not just good for me. Like I can always feel a movie or a game's coming out that's like everybody's excited for this, but I got a bad feeling. I had that feeling for Cyberpunk. I had that feeling for Gotham Knights. I had that feeling for Forspoken. And so, yeah, Forspoken, even back when it was called Project Athia or whatever it was, never really looked all that great to me. Finally played the demo, and I was like, this isn't really that fun. And then the reviews came out, and I was like, yeah, I'm not spending $70 on that. That's the problem, is games are so fucking expensive nowadays that nobody wants to give certain games a chance. Like Forspoken might be decent enough for a $30 game, but that's what's nice about things like Game Pass, even though I don't understand how it's profitable, is that I can play games that I otherwise would not have risked $70 to play. How tall is Cody? Cody is 6'1". My friend said, what if A24 remade Leprechaun? I have no idea what the fuck that would even look like. Wow. A pretentious, artsy Leprechaun. That would be wild. $10. Thank you so much. Any chance you're going to any horror cons? I'm going to Dallas for Texas Frightmare to meet the GOAT, John Carpenter. Love your channel, man. I don't know. I don't have any current plans to. I would not go out of the state for any. I can tell you that much. There's Spooky Empire in Orlando, and there's also one that happens in Orlando. There's a couple that happen, or excuse me, Atlanta. There's a couple that happen in Atlanta. So I've got my ears out to hear about one. but I don't know. I'm always kind of nervous to do something like that. Like MegaCon was actually my first experience at a con period last year. And so even more so with horror, I'm always nervous about going to one of those for a couple reasons. Number one is just because I don't know how many people would recognize me and stop me and stuff like that. And so I don't know. Like I'm fine meeting people. I enjoy meeting people, but at the same time, I don't know if it would be too much. Like whenever I went to MegaCon with Sean, I mean, it took us like 30 minutes to get from the creator stage to where Chris Sarandon was because everybody kept stopping Sean. He had to keep having the same conversation with 15 different people, which is awesome for Sean. When I'm standing there and I'm like, fucking, he's gonna leave. I gotta get Chris Sarandon. If I was in Sean's shoes, I probably would have enjoyed it much more. But yeah, if it's a good and a bad to that. I don't know if it would be too much, or overwhelming. The other side of that is you have that whole notion of don't meet your heroes. I'm always afraid to meet people that I have a lot of admiration for because I always hear these horror stories where people are like, man, I loved such and such actor and I met him at a con and they're a fucking asshole. And so I just worry. I would assume that would be a rarity, but it would break my heart to meet like Robert Englund and Robert Englund's dick, or something like that. Meet somebody from the Child's Play franchise, and they're like, "Oh, I heard you didn't like season 2. Go fuck yourself." Something like that. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's always a bit of hesitation on my part for silly reasons, admittedly. But I don't know. I do want to try it. I do want to try it. So we'll see. Maybe I'll try it this year if one looks good. If there's enough people in like the guest list that would entice me to go. It would be really fun to meet some of the people in the horror industry that I've actually talked with, and I actually have somewhat of a relationship with, like Alex Vincent from Child's Play, or Lauren Lavera, who we just had on the channel a couple weeks ago. Like that would be really fun because then it's like, hey, in the flesh, now we met each other. So yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out. But yeah, it would only be within 4 hours, 5 hours tops. I would not fly out of state to go to one. So Texas Frightmare, unfortunately, is out of the question for me. Are you going to check out Metroid Prime Remaster? I would be checking it out right now, but those fuckers had to release it at a time where I'm still trying to complete the platinum for Dead Space and just got Hogwarts Legacy and have plans to do the Resident Evil 4 walkthrough. So it's just like, God, guys, video games always seem to do that. It seems like everybody releases all their shit in one little chunk and then we'll go months with nothing. And that drives me nuts. That happened last year. We had Dying Light 2, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Elden Ring all released within like a month, with the exception of Stray. Big, massive, fat ass games that take like 50 to 100 hours to play all at once. And then they didn't release jack shit until December after that. It's like, fuck, guys, spread it out a little bit. Damn. It's not like a movie where I can just watch all 3 of these in one fucking day and call it a night. Ugh. Thank you for inspiring me to start my own channel. Well, good luck to you, sir. Glad I could be an inspiration. How do you do your hair? I just roll out of bed and just do that. No, I don't know, dude. Like it's just I use I think it's Axe brand, but like pomade. I don't use gel or mousse or anything like that. Gel's too greasy feeling and it makes your hair too hard. Pomade keeps your hair in a nice spot, but it also leaves your hair kind of soft to the touch. So I use that and just have naturally good hair. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of method to the madness. I'm a guy, so I don't spend a whole lot of time or money maintaining the do. It just happens. Thoughts on Dog Soldiers? I've never been a fan of it. I'm looking forward to finally watching it and reviewing it at some point this year. Because admittedly, I've never made it through the whole thing. But for as many people that adore that movie, I watch it and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, I'm an easy sell. It's a werewolf movie. I should fucking love this. But yeah, I don't know. I've tried to watch it twice and it just doesn't work for me. Especially them glossing Cliff Burton's death. Oh wow, I must be really behind. But yeah, Cliff Burton, glossing over the way that they treated Jason Newsted. Who knows with Dave Mustaine, he might have like one fucking scene in the movie. Like there's all these things where I'm like, come on, guys, that's not the true story. With Whispers of a Lost Boys remake in the works, who would you cast to play David? Dude, I don't know. I have no idea what the direction is. I would have to know the direction and what exactly they're doing before I could say what actor would fit it. I know you like metal. What are your favorite bands? I'm also the guitarist of a death metal band, and I'm an acquaintance of Stay Metal Ray. Awesome. What are your favorite bands? Metallica, Judas Priest, and like favorite bands in general. I'm not just gonna say with metal because everybody's got their own interpretation of what metal is. Like I could say fucking I'll say a metal band, they're like, that's not metal, poser. So Metallica, Judas Priest, Alter Bridge, Stained, Godsmack, Seether is up there. That's all I can think off the top of my head. Sometimes I blank, but that's kind of a general direction of where my music taste goes. Would you ever do a metal rock band tier list? Well, I did one for Alice in Chains. Me and CP have plans to eventually do Metallica before long. So, yes, but those videos also do not perform well on this channel. So it's not something that I would make a habit out of making. I like doing it for fun every once in a while. Which horror guys could Wade and Dalton handle? Wade and Dalton. I'm blanking on who the fuck that is. Wade and Dalton. Oh, fucking Roadhouse. Which horror guys could Wade and Dalton handle? Oh, RH Roadhouse. Duh. I saw RH and I was like, what the fuck? Dude, I don't know. Chucky. Certain versions of Michael Myers. Maybe even certain versions of Jason. Leprechaun for sure. Well, I don't know. He's got magic. He's got that, that Freddy advantage. What was the background music you used to have in your videos called? Off the top of my head, I don't know. How do you get monetized on YouTube? You have to have 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours, and there's a couple other criteria, but I don't remember off the top of my head what they are. But when you start a channel, it tells you. It literally tells you under monetization, and it monitors how close you are. Then once you get to that benchmark, you can set every video to be monetized, or you could set every video yourself as you upload them. And as long as you don't have copyrighted material or it's really adult or shows nudity or something like that to where they can't put advertisers on it, then all videos are capable of monetization. Favorite song band of all time? Sorry, I got something in my throat. I don't want to keep making those sounds. Favorite song of all time is Nutshell by Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains, there's the band that I forgot to list in my favorite bands there. They would be like in the top 5. But I don't have like one ultimate favorite band of all time. Stone Sour, there's another one. What do you want from the 5th and final season of Stranger Things? Some stakes. That's really about it. Because it felt like a couple of characters should have died last season with how intense that it was. And it takes away a little bit of the intensity if you feel like that people have plot armor. So if it's the final season, I think there needs to be some stakes. And for the love of God, Will, just come out. We know. We know. Saw your Fantasy 3131. Did you read the Chronicles of Narnia books? No. I'm not a big reader. And if I did, it wouldn't be fantasy stuff because I'm really not a fantasy guy. So I've never read any of the Harry Potters. Well, I take that back. I've read the first Harry Potter because it was part of my reading in school in 4th grade. But I've never read any of the other Harry Potters, never read any of the Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, none of that stuff. When I do read, it's rare occasion, but it's not in the fantasy genre. New to the channel, looks super dope. Your favorite comic book film? Let's see. Well, welcome. Thank you. But favorite comic book film, top 5, you would have Captain America Winter Soldier, you would have Logan, you would have The Batman that came out last year, um, Spider-Man 2, and I feel like I'm missing one. Like Avengers Endgame would be up there for me. You would have X-Men 2, X-Men United would be up there for me. Deadpool, the first one. Um, I'm probably forgetting a really obvious one. Kick-Ass, I love that one too. But those top 4 there are probably pretty hard at my top 4. Missed my super chat. When? Fuck. How long ago was that? Let me look. If it was this one, I caught it. Is there another one? Well, just type it in without paying for it, and I'll try to catch it. But I mean, I don't think I missed any. Hopefully, you just posted that comment before I actually read it. Let's see here. Have you seen The Fallout with Jenna Ortega? Oh, it's a movie. I was like, The Fallout of what? What happened? It was my favorite film of 2022. What did you think about Motionless in White? I love your channel, dude. Wanted to include music too. Um, no, I Motionless in White, I'm not familiar with. I don't even know what band that would be. The Fallout, I did not see. I haven't even heard of that one. Favorite film of 2022. Let me look that one up because Jenna Ortega did a lot of shit last year, but I didn't hear anything about the Fallout. Um, HBO Max. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that one, so no, I didn't see that one. Uh The chick who played the clown cafe singer in Terrifier 2 is going hardcore against the new Hogwarts Legacy game. She says it's both transphobic and anti-Semitic. If that is her take, then I respect it. Especially since I'm assuming that she is Jewish to take that stance. I don't know specifically what J.K. Rowling has said against the trans community, or it's first I'm hearing she said anything about the Jewish community. Here's my take on it. You can have every opinion in the world on J.K. Rowling. And if you yourself choose not to watch Harry Potter, read Harry Potter, play the Hogwarts Legacy game, that is your right. And you have every right to do that. That's your own choice. To then take that and shove it onto other people and say that, and I don't know specifically what she is saying. I'm just going off of your tweet or your comment here. But let's say, for argument's sake, that she is saying, if you play this game, you are contributing to transphobia and anti-Semitism. No. Look, if we're going to take the stance that every single property out there that is attached to somebody that has said or done something shitty we shouldn't be a part of, then guess what? Stop watching everything. Stop listening to everything. Stop playing everything. Because at some point in the chain, you're going to find somebody who's an asshole. But specifically with this one, look, Harry Potter is a property that people have loved for decades. You're not going to tell me that now suddenly it makes you a non-ally, I guess, for the trans community or the Jewish community if you decide to enjoy a video game. Because I guarantee the vast majority of people who are playing that game, at no point during their playing experience are they ever even thinking about anything positive or negative regarding the trans community or the Jewish community. They're just playing a fucking game. If you go to Chick-fil-A, if you take a bite of that chicken sandwich, that doesn't make you a homophobe. So that's my stance on it. I respect anybody who decides that they feel strongly about it and they don't want to take any part in it, but I do take a large issue with anybody trying to say, this is my belief, and if you do this, you're this. That will piss me off. And so, yeah, luckily I haven't had anything like that. I've only streamed the game once, But yeah, anybody trying to say that I'm a bigot in any way, shape, or form because I'm playing a fucking PlayStation game, please, please get ready for the verbal ass kicking that you were going to get for that because no. I just watched Frailty. It was really good. Awesome. I love Frailty. Hey, Cody, hope your night's been well. How do you think a Psycho remake would play out? I can't seem to think of something that would be as shocking. I don't think it's a movie you should ever remake. I mean, we already had a remake, but if you're talking about like a modern thing, I mean, first of all, Bates Motel was fantastic, and that was just a few years ago. To me, that is the best possible version of modernizing that story that you could ever think of. But Psycho is a movie that is beloved and had a huge impact for things that you're not gonna be able to recreate with a new film, and no matter what, it's such an iconic movie, it's such a celebrated movie that you make a version of that, and the the clinch pin of that experience, which is that surprise, shocking ending, everybody and their mother knows that. That's common knowledge at this point. That's part of the public, zeitgeist, so I would not want to be in charge of any part, especially writing a new Psycho movie because it's like, what the fuck are you gonna do besides just um, what are you gonna do? Okay, let's see. Are you gonna make a top 10 underrated gems? At some point. That was actually one of the ideas that I was talking to Sean about for MegaCon if we decide to do a panel with that. I made an edit of Halloween 2018 with bits of kills and ends for prologue and epilogue, plus some other tweaks. I'd love for you to check it out. Sounds interesting. Sounds interesting. Lips are starting to get dry. I'm running all over myself. 4.99. Thank you so much. In The Babysitter, I really liked Melody and Cole's relationship, so I had an Alien 3 opening moment when they butchered Melody's character in part 2. Ortega's character made an infinitely worse couple. I really enjoyed The Babysitter too. I didn't get a lot of the issues with that movie, so, um, yeah, I don't know. I would have to watch it again to even know specifically what you're talking about, but I enjoyed the sequel. What celeb do you wanna meet for me, Daniel Harris? That would be very cool. The ultimate for me, top of the list, like, if there was somebody like a Make-A-Wish thing where they were like, "What celebrity?" Like, name anybody and we'll bring them, we'll arrange it. It would be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just because that guy was, the king. That was my movie god when I was growing up. T2, Commando, Kindergarten Cop, Jingle All the Way. Like I was a Arnold Schwarzenegger fucking fanatic. And so he was such a gigantic piece of my early movie fandom, just such a huge piece of my childhood that I would probably fucking cry if I met that guy. So that one to me is at the top of the list for sure. There's a bunch of others too, but that's the one where it was just like I would probably have a fucking stroke. Could you answer my question as soon as you're done with all the people who are giving you money to have their question answered? I mean, I try to get to everybody's questions, but there's a lot of super chats. So I try to do a few in between, but even now I'm 20 minutes almost behind. So I try my best, but it's hard with 500 people watching. So I do my best. What's your thought of them making Toy Story 5? I have no interest in that. Look, Bob Iger, there's a lot of great things that guy does whenever he's in charge of Disney. I'm glad that he's back because that other guy was a fucking moron, Chapek. But one of the things that Bob Iger brings with him is some extremely safe choices. And so it's not really a surprise that once he gets back, it's like we're making Toy Story 5 and Frozen 2. And, I think he was one of the big guys that was a big proponent of doing all of the classic Disney live action remakes. And it's like the most obvious, just quick, easy buck thing. Uh, the first Toy Story is easily in my top 3 animated films of all time, the first one. And the second one and the third one are not far below that. They might all be in my top 10. I didn't really care for Toy Story 4. I didn't like the story direction that they took. I understand what they were trying to do. I understand that it was a Woody story and they were trying to give the ending for Woody, and I get all of that. I just did not enjoy the direction that they took. I thought that 3 was a perfect ending to that trilogy. And I thought that 4 had to do a lot of things that rubbed me very wrong to get to get to the end that they wanted. I did not like the fact that I believe the kid's name was Bonnie. I did not like the fact that Bonnie discarded Woody. Yes, it's realistic. Yes, kids discard toys all the time. I get all of that. But with the significance, the emotional significance of the end of the third film, where Andy is given this legacy of these toys his entire childhood to this little girl that he doesn't even know just because she likes them, to immediately follow that up with her throwing Woody in the closet like a piece of shit. No, I, I've watched the movie 3 times. I still cannot get over that. I hate that little girl. I'm like, fuck you. You play with it. So I don't like that. And then to go through everything that they go through, and there's a lot of good things about Toy Story 4. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I hate it. I just really, it's a really rough swallow for me to get that down. You get to the end of it, and Woody loses his pull string, and he goes off with Bo Peep, and abandons all the other toys. They're going to be fine, but abandon might be more of a dramatic word. But he goes off to have his happy ending with Bo Peep and leaves everybody else behind. I prefer the Toy Story 1 through 3 story without 4. But even if we're including 4, so now you're going to have 5. Well, now the emotional significance of the ending of 4 is now going to be thrown away because obviously Woody and Buzz are going to be reunited for some new adventure, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. Like, I love the characters of Toy Story. I love the franchise, but 4 really soured me after how perfect that ending was for 3. One of the hardest endings to watch for the first time without bawling your fucking eyes out for those of us that grew up with Toy Story. And so until I know more, it's not something I'm excited about. Although it is funny that the very first thing that they announce is their Toy Story 5 is coming, and the very next day, Tim Allen back as Buzz. So everybody's like, it's okay. We're not bringing Chris Evans back. And Chris Evans, I think, did a good job. I'm not shitting on him, but it's funny how they realize how much of a mistake that was in Lightyear not to have Tim Allen. Considering all franchises sequels that exist, are there any you would put below Seed of Chucky? Freddy's Dead. Freddy's Dead and Seed of Chucky are probably the bottom 2 for me, just because those are my 2 favorite franchises, and those are the 2 sequels in those franchises that offend me the most as a fan. I note the RoboCop shirt. Are you excited for the upcoming RoboCop game? Depends on what kind of game it is, but RoboCop is a property that would make a kick-ass game, so I hope that they do it right. Currently binging the series Person of Interest. If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. It's brilliant. I've heard it's good. I think Sean's talked about that one a few times, but it's so difficult to watch all the TV shows out there. So difficult. There's a new one like every fucking day. Have you seen Stranger Things season 4? I have. If you go to Sledgehammer Horror and search Stranger Things season 4, we did a full spoiler discussion on their channel. I did not discuss, review, or rank it on my channel for reasons that I don't want to go into because I've talked about it ad nauseum. But I didn't like the way that Netflix or their PR people were treating content creators, and so I decided not to cover the show. That's a simplified version. Have you seen Good Boys? Do you like Tremors? I have seen Good Boys. It was kind of funny. Wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be, though. Tremors, the first one's pretty decent. I haven't seen any of the sequels. Stop the spam. Okay, who's spamming? Guys, spamming is not a way to get your question answered. And unfortunately, none of my, well, one, Sky's here, but not many of my mods are here tonight, too. So please don't. Don't overwork the 1 or 2 that I might have here. Let's see. Will you ever whip it out? $500 super chat. I'll do it right now. Was there anything in particular that inspired you to start losing weight? Was it going back to your old vids and seeing skinny Cody? It was. I mean, look, I'm not like grossly overweight. I just have some weight that I could stand to lose, and just I prefer to have a healthier lifestyle. I used to go to the gym every single day until I got with Holly and our the instant dad life that I had whenever we moved in together just I didn't have any time with the job that I had. There was literally no time. So I got out of it. I lost all of the motivation that I had and created some very bad habits. But what inspired me to start losing weight was seeing the footage that me and Sean Chandler shot last year for his series that he's been doing on his Real Creators channel. We had 3 different cameras going, and we were doing like an interview, or I was being interviewed basically on how I grew my channel and tips and things like that. And months later, after he finally edited it together, he showed it to me. And the middle camera angle, that's the wide angle that shows both of us, I look big. I look big. And so it was kind of shocking. I saw it and I was like, oh, I need to get in the gym. That's not good. So that was kind of the moment that was like the eye-opening thing where I'm like, oh, like the camera angles that I shoot at don't allow me to see myself in that light. But that new one, I was like, oh man, no, no, that's not me. So yeah, that's kind of what that was the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge where I'm like, okay, no, I gotta do something. Been taking it easy too long. Would you ever do a ranking of Tremors franchise? Maybe eventually, but again, it's not a franchise that's on the top of the list by any means. If, and I know it's a big if, The Crow is ever remade. Well, it's not an if, it's happening. It's I don't know if they're shooting it, but it's currently happening with Bill Skarsgård. Who would you want to play Eric Draven, and what story should they do? And I just answered that question. So he's not necessarily the pick that I would have gone with. I think he's a good pick, but yeah, they are doing a Crow remake of the original movie with Bill Skarsgård right now. So do you think Evil Dead Rise will be another great addition to the franchise considering every entry has been good? It looks awesome, so I have no reason to doubt that it's going to be great. You missed mine. Stephen Bates, you missed mine. Was it a super chat? I don't think I missed anything. I don't know. If you did, just type it again. You don't have to pay for it. I'll see it. Oh, let's see. I'm getting caught up. It brings me joy that you love Alamo Drafthouse theaters. I try to go on Tuesdays for horror nights, and MCU films are the best. Man, I'm telling you. And I don't know what if they have an upcharge or anything like that, because I was there. I wasn't paying to go to individual movies. I had a pass. But if they had an Alamo Drafthouse near me, that's the only theater that I would use. I fucking loved it. Like that's a theater chain that has their shit together, that knows like how to bring people in and how to deliver a movie experience for a modern audience. Because you not only have the awesome serious reinforcement of the shut the fuck up and put the cell phone away rule, which I love. It tells you in boldface words like you will be kicked out without a refund. And I don't know if it's typically this way, but it was this way at the festival. There's even a guy on staff that stands in the theater the whole time, like a security guard. So I love that in and of itself. But the whole restaurant thing was just fucking kick ass. That's what I mean. Like I would every single week I would eat there on Thursdays, the new release night, and see the movie at Alamo Drafthouse, no question. Their little system that they have for anybody that's never been to an Alamo Drafthouse. Essentially, every single row has this long table in front of you, and they have menus underneath, and they have these little slips of white paper and a pencil that's stuck off to the side. And so you typically people do it before the movie starts, but I think up to maybe the last 30-40 minutes of the movie, they walk by and give you like a little last call thing. But you can order food, drink, refill, dessert, whatever, all throughout the movie. You write your order on the little piece of white paper, and then you stick it in the little thing, and they'll see it, and somebody will come by and they'll grab it silently, duck underneath, and they'll go, and then they'll bring your food out. And the food was fucking great. So like the first night we were there, we were watching Terrifier 2, and I ordered um Mexican street corn popcorn, which I read that and I was like, Sean, you down? Because I'm down as a motherfucker. It's popcorn with cilantro and cotija cheese and some Mexican seasonings and a bunch of other stuff. It was fucking awesome. My wife would have gone nuts for it. And then actual food. I tried to try something different every single night that we were there. They had really good little personal pizzas. They had a chicken sandwich that was pretty decent. Um, they had a milkshake that was fucking delicious. They had a Mexican vanilla milkshake, and it's a vanilla milkshake with a hint of cinnamon in it, and it was godly delicious. Um, they had you get like bottomless soda, bottomless popcorn, so you can just keep ordering, get refills the entire time. They'll just bring it to you. What's some other things that I tried there? They had like healthier stuff like um black bean bowls and things like that. They had a whole bunch of shit. You can go and look at their menu, but I absolutely loved that experience because there's no concession line and it's food. It's actual food, not fucking you want popcorn or gas station nachos. That's usually the only the only choices that you have at most theaters. So that is something that I think more theater chains need to invest in trying to do something like that, like a full kitchen. Because as much as it might seem like it's overwhelming some nights, the reward I would assume is tenfold. Because most people do what? They go to a dinner and a movie. Well, if you got both in the same house, they're just going to you. So yeah, I adored Alamo Drafthouse, and I hope that at some point it's a snowball's chance in hell, but I hope at some point we get one close to me. What's your favorite genre besides horror movies? Probably action. Probably action. I mean, my top 2 favorite movies of all time are both action, Die Hard and Terminator 2. So, yeah, action, I am a horror for if it is kick-ass. Yeah, I remember your Psycho remake. One of your notes was just Anne Heche. Things have obviously changed since then. Have your thoughts? I've been curious on the Psycho remake. No, not really. It's an interesting little experiment. Let's do shot for shot and see if it still has the same magic. No, it doesn't. Experiment over. No, it's a well-made movie. It's it's one of those weird things when you make a shot for shot movie, technically you have to praise it for certain things because it's the same exact thing as the really great thing that we love. I think that Julianne Moore and William H. Macy, their performances, I liked their version of the characters better than I did those 2 characters in the original film. But Vince Vaughn was terrible as Norman Bates, and Anne Heche was okay, but, yeah, it's a movie that I when you have a shot for shot remake, I just find it pointless. Because the only one that I understand is maybe a foreign language shot for shot, like let the right one in to let me in, because some people don't enjoy watching subtitles. Some people just they can't get past it, and I was that way for a very long time, so I understand it. Those at least I feel like have a purpose. It's to make that story reachable to people that don't or can't experience a foreign film. But just same language, shot for shot, to me, that's pointless because I'm always going to choose the original. If it's the exact same experience to a degree, I'm always going to choose the better one. Same with like the Omen. It's just like, okay, I'm always going to pick the original over this one. What are your thoughts on Requiem for a Dream? I've never seen it. It doesn't seem like a movie that I would enjoy watching. I know enough about it. So mm, do you have any thoughts on the idea that Slipknot's next album will be their last? I think it's time, even though I love them. I'm not a massive Slipknot fan, so I'm not really passionate one way or the other. I will say that Stone Sour has been on a hiatus for a very long time. So if Stone Sour is done and then Slipknot is done, is Corey just going to do his solo album stuff for a while? I'm a Corey Taylor fan more than I am a Slipknot or a Stone Sour fan, although Stone Sour I love. But yeah, Slipknot that album being their last. I mean, I don't seems like an era where a lot of bands are saying that because Godsmack, Sully Erna just came out and said that their newest album is going to be their last. Because the way that he worded it was that you get to a certain point in your career where you've been going on long enough and everybody that comes to the show, they just want to hear the old stuff. Nobody knows any of the new stuff. And there's a point there that he has. You know, if Aerosmith released an album today and you go see Aerosmith, are you going to give a shit about the new music? Or are you going to be like, hey, Sweet Emotion, walk this way? You know, you want to hear the classics. I get that. But at the same time, it bums me out that you're kind of appealing to the lowest common denominator, because true fans, like hardcore fans, will always know the new stuff and they'll always appreciate a mix. And so that kind of I understand it, but at the same time, it kind of bums me out. Slipknot, I don't know anything else about why they said that, but yeah, I don't really care, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a big Slipknot fan, so. My top 5 uncut gems: Layer Cake, Identity, Lucky Number 11, Frailty, Safe with Jason Statham. Interesting top 5. Lucky Number 11, that's a good one. Have you seen the Resident Evil Death Island trailer? If not, should we expect a trailer reaction? Is that the animated one? Because no, I've never watched any of the animated Resident Evil ones. Go back to my statements earlier about animated movies. It's not my thing. Do you think there in a few years there won't be any more movie theaters because of Netflix and streaming world? No. I don't foresee a future where there's never any movie theaters anywhere. I think that they might consolidate a little bit. You know, there might not be a shitload of them out there. There might not be as many, but there's always going to be demand for a movie theater. There's always going to be movies that people want to go see. And so, no, I don't think you're ever going to see the death of theaters. I mean, you have a little bit of that shift where people want to they want to stay at home and watch streaming stuff, but then people want to get out of the house. You're always going to have that kind of swing back on the pendulum to where they're like, okay, I've seen enough fucking Yellowstone. I want to go and watch something like Top Gun Maverick. I want to be blown away and watch it with a crowd. So I don't foresee that ever. Toy Story 4 is one of my theater regrets. I'm pissed I wasted money on it. Yeah, me, my wife, and all 3 of my kids saw it, and me and my wife were not happy. The kids didn't understand. They were like, "Ah, that was fun." And me and my wife were like, "Fucking bitch. Fucking bitch, disrespect Woody like that." Like, we're the generation that grew up with those toys, so we were the one that felt attacked. We were like, "What the fuck did they do?" I liked it more on my second watch. The first time I almost was like, I didn't like that. I'm shocked. But yeah, that's one that's hotly debated. You got people that passionately defend Toy Story 4, and then you got people like me that are like, no, they did him wrong. Hey, Cody, you're one of my favorite channels. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Did you say you were platinuming Dead Space? That's awesome, and good luck beating impossible difficulty. Also, do you like Eminem? I plan to. I don't know if I'm going to do it anytime soon because, unfortunately, I prefer it when a game requires about maybe 3 playthroughs tops to get the platinum. And Dead Space, unfortunately, is going to require 4 out of me because I wanted to do one just straightforward playthrough when I was live streaming, not really focusing on any weird stuff for trophies. And then you have to play it on hard to unlock impossible mode. Otherwise, I would have just played. And you can't play impossible mode on New Game Plus, which really fucking sucks. I understand it's supposed to be a challenge, but losing all of your upgrades and your weapons, that's a bitch. So you have straightforward playthrough, you have New Game Plus playthrough to get that trophy, you have a playthrough using just the plasma cutter because I didn't want to do that on hard. Was another one, and now I'm gonna have to do a 4th playthrough, and so I'm kind of getting a little burnout. So I don't know if I'll do it right now or if I'll just come back to it eventually, but yes, I do have plans to. Also, do you like Eminem? I like a few of his songs. I'm not really a big into rap, but some of his stuff I can get into much more than others. So he's not anybody I ever go and listen to, but if he's on, I'm not like mad. Okay. He's only answering to people who pay him. Let me explain how this works. There's 500 fucking people watching. I'm not saying you have to pay me for me to open my mouth. But those that have already dropped $10, $20, $5, $2, yes, I'm going to prioritize those questions because they've already dropped money to support the channel. So I appreciate the little backhanded comment there, like I'm some greedy asshole that just only acknowledges those that pay me. But there is literally have been like 60 fucking questions that I've answered already. And I'm still 20 minutes behind. So yes, let me stop and just answer every single question, all 10,000 of them. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. So I appreciate those of you that understand that. For those that don't, hey Cody, you're one of my favorite channel. Oh, just answered that one. Sorry. Hey Cody, as a fellow fan of Christine, what's your thoughts on Maximum Overdrive? Keep up the good work. I have never seen it. I bought it with the intention of watching it, but I never got a chance to. I do that a lot, where I'll buy something, stick it on the shelf, and forget that it's there. Sometimes it's so bad because I have such a big collection that I will buy it, stick it on the shelf, forget it's there. Months go by, and I buy it again because I forget that it's on the shelf until I go to the shelf and I'm like, fuck, there's already one here. I've at least 6 times I've done that where I've bought something because it's a part of a deal. I'm like, ooh, $6 for that, $10 for that, hell yeah, and I buy it, and then I'm like, oh fuck, I bought it back when it was full price. Oh, have you read the Final Girl support group? If not, highly recommend. Even if you aren't an avid reader, it's a gift to 80s horror fans. Okay, interesting. What are your thoughts on Django Unchained? Watched it again recently, and it may be my favorite Tarantino movie. Super underrated. I love Django Unchained. That one is it's at least in my top 3 Tarantino movies. It's a little long, so it's not a movie I watch very often, but it's very well written. I love the characters in it. Yeah, it's one of Tarantino's best, easily. I think my top 3 are Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, and Inglourious Bastards, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it might be my second favorite. I can't really think. Same creative team of Jigsaw, Spiral, and the Bad Saw sequels are still doing Saw 2023. Wish the producers would have hired some new great writers and allowed more creative control. Thoughts? That's a series that needs to just go away for a while. Like they had Jigsaw. Jigsaw is a very forgettable movie. There's some good things about it, but I was excited about that because it was the same people that made a movie called Predestination. It's like a time travel movie with Ethan Hawke. Check it out if you guys are big sci-fi fans. It's a really interesting, unique time travel movie. But I was excited because they were involved, and Jigsaw was just a very generic vanilla Saw movie. Spiral, aside from the fact that Chris Rock, it does not work in the hard-boiled detective role, and I knew that from the trailer. Aside from that, it was actually a pretty good little attempt at rebooting the franchise. So I thought that one was actually pretty solid. But now they're doing it again, and it's not Spiral 2, it's another attempt. So 3 reboots in a row. There's nothing left. Just stop. The fucking guy died back at Saw 3, and you've been struggling ever since then to try to figure out how to continue this franchise, and you haven't done a very good job of answering that question. Aside from Spiral, which didn't even really attempt to bring John Kramer into it whatsoever. So yeah, I have no interest, no faith, no confidence in that movie whatsoever. That's a franchise that seriously they need to take like 10 years off and then just start over or something. Your most hated final girl and guy. Does it count? I don't know if you call him a final guy. The character from Return to Sleepaway Camp. Is it Adam? That fucking dude was insufferable the entire movie. So if that fits your description. Love your channel. Any updates for the next 31 on 31? We will have a live stream at some point in February. Well, fuck it. I'll go ahead and talk about it now. It's not like I need to save it for a big announcement. So I'm not going to say specifically what the theme is. I have given hints in previous live streams as well as on the gaming channel. I've had a couple people ask me, but we have a theme that is not easily fit into 31 movies. And so what we're going to do is 16 of the 31 we are picking, and we're going to leave 15 of the 31 up to you guys as like a community poll. So eventually at some point this month, we're all going to get together on Autop Stream. We're going to have a live stream, and we're going to have choices in certain categories for movies, and we're going to let you guys pick the remaining 15 of the 31. So it's going to be something a little bit different for that one. So that should be fun. And then we have the Halloween one in October. That's going to be just traditional 31 on 31. That it'll be months before I announce what that is. But yeah, I've given a few little hints and a few little winks about where we're heading for the one in May. But we're doing 2 this year. Much love, Cody. Would you ever want to make movies? I really have interest in writing movies right now. I don't know. I don't have any training or any education to be able to direct anything. But yeah, I would love to do something in the realm of making movies, of course. I loved your Fantastic Fest content. I know it's early, but do you think you will head back? I plan to. I plan to, yes. Thank you so much, Bronson. Everybody's saying I'm making them hungry. This must have been the section where I was talking about all the elote popcorn and everything like that. Do you think in a few years there won't be any more movie theaters due to Netflix and the streaming world? I think I answered that question before it was a super chat, but no. I don't think we're ever going to have a world. Oh, Rudy. Who would you rather bone, Meg Ryan or Jack Nicholson? Well, Jack Nicholson now or 1974? Answer that for $30 and I'll answer. Longtime fan, started watching when I started college. Now I'm graduated and have a job. Well, good job. Congratulations. Getting ready to start my own podcast, being inspired by you mainly. That is a great segue for me to make some announcements. So I had talked about this vaguely about plans to make plans. I am going to be launching some new podcasts, plurals, this year. I'm going to be bringing back What's in the Inbox. For those that don't know, I did that a couple of years ago for a couple of months there where I would answer user submitted questions that were like personal questions, like not talking about movies, like life, relationships, parenting, stuff like that. I'm going to bring that back. This is going to be just me. But I have let's see here. I'm going to bring up a graphic. But I bought the Rodecaster over here, which is what I'm running my microphone through. So it's a mixer that I can use for live streaming, but it's also something that I can use as a podcast studio. You just plug all the microphones and headphones in, and you can record podcasts just with this thing. It's awesome. So I have plans for 2 more podcasts that will be launching. One of them for sure by the end of this month, hopefully both of them by the end of this month, but no specific guarantee on that one because it just depends on how things work out. Like I said, sometimes I get a little over ambitious with the timing of things, but I have one that my buddy Woody Bowen created both of these logos. One of them is a podcast that's going to be me and my father, where I don't know specifically what we're going to talk about yet. We might just freeform it every single time, but it's called Breaking Dad. And that is the graphic right there. So once I get with him, we'll have an episode of that. So that'll be me and him talking about various things. We may eventually decide on a topic, but it may just be free form, just me and him fucking around. And the other one that I have is a podcast that me and my wife are going to do, which does have a specific theme. And it's going to be called For Better or Cursed. And this is the graphic for that. So that will be coming out probably before Breaking Dad because it's easy for me to just record that within my house versus pack up all my shit and travel to my dad's house. But you have both of those that will be started, and they're probably going to be on their own podcast network. Like I have the Autop Stream Network podcast that'll have audio editions for Autop Stream. There's also plans for Dead Air to start again with me and CP, and we're going to bring Rudy into that one. That'll be something where we talk about more risky stuff. And then the What's in the Inbox stuff will all be in that one. But Breaking Dad and For Better or Cursed will probably be a totally separate podcast. For Better or Cursed, the idea for that one, and it kind of goes along with this logo here, where I am like John McClane and my wife is like Ariel, is that it's going to be, I would hopefully weekly, maybe bi-weekly, more likely bi-weekly, to where me and the wife, every other episode will trade off. We're going to have, I have my movie taste. I have my favorite movies, and hers are extremely different. I like things like Die Hard, Terminator, Nightmare on Elm Street, Uncle Buck, Back to the Future. Her favorite movies are like Little Mermaid and While You Were Sleeping and Pretty Woman and Forrest Gump, things like that. A lot of chick flicks and a lot of classic Disney. And so the podcast is going to be every week we force each other to watch one of our favorite movies, and we're going to discuss it. So like one week will be both of us discussing like Die Hard, and the next week will be both of us discussing Pretty Woman, and it'll go back and forth like that. So that one I'm really excited about. That should be fun. So thank you for that question and the super chat, because it was a nice little segue into me kind of announcing that. With the release of the new album, will we get a Metallica album tier list? Absolutely. That's going to be the perfect time for us to do that, actually. So I totally forgot when I answered that question earlier that they had the new album coming out. So yes, absolutely. When the new album comes out, there will be a Metallica tier list. Also curious on your thoughts on the new Alter Bridge album. To be fair, I haven't really had time to listen to it as much as I have the other albums, but it might be my least favorite album of theirs, while still being a good album. I don't think Alter Bridge has released any bad albums yet. But those guys write and record so much. I mean, they're constant. It seems like they never stop. You have Alter Bridge, and then you have they had a Creed reunion at one point. Then Miles Kennedy goes off and does stuff with Slash, and then Mark Tremonti has his stuff with Tremonti, and then Miles Kennedy does his solo stuff, and they are always like swapping between them. And so at some point, it was to be expected that they would feel like they had a little bit of creative exhaustion. And I don't, it's almost seems a little too harsh to say that, because it's still a good, well written bunch of music, but there's something missing in that new album. I don't know specifically what it is. It's very hard for me to articulate what exactly is up with Pawns and Kings, but every single Alter Bridge album is very balanced. You have some heavy stuff, you have some very technical, like prog kind of stuff, and darker, doomier, low tune guitars in some of them. You'll have more upbeat, uplifting ballad type stuff. You'll have kind of more mid tempo, almost radio friendly type song. There's always a little bit of something for everyone in every Alter Bridge album. And it feels like Pawns and Kings is kind of one note, with the exception of the song Stay. And so I think that's kind of what my issue with it is. It's still very well written music. It's still very technically good music. It's still got some heavy stuff here and there. Like Miles is always great and vocally, but there's not very many songs on it that pop for me to where I'm like, ooh, go back to that song. I love that song. Like Stay is the only one that really has like some umph to it, because it feels like a more classic Alter Bridge song. And I always like the ones that Mark Tremonti sings on too. It's always a nice little change of pace. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird. At some point, I need to just put it on. Maybe I'll do it in the gym tomorrow. Just put on Pawns and Kings and just listen to it start to finish a couple of times and kind of get my opinion straight on it. But yeah, so far it's probably my least favorite Alter Bridge album, because all the other ones have a handful of songs that are like standouts to me. And this one, there's not really anything that stands out about it. Any tips for aspired screenwriters like myself? Well, I'm not a screenwriter, so I'm the wrong person to ask. I mean, no. I mean, it's hard to say without just basic shit like tell a good story and have good characters. Um, yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm not a screenwriter. Like I can come up with some good ideas for stuff, but I've never like sat down and wrote a script. So I would be very ignorant to try to tell you when you probably are more educated than me on that. It's a quote from Billy Madison. Who the hell didn't get that reference? Come on now. Shame on you. Penalty box. Try to rank these. The Babysitter, Bride of Chucky, The Dark Knight Rises, The Thing, The Terminator. What a weird random group of fucking movies. Okay. Well, The Thing, so The Thing from Another World, that's the bottom. Then I would put Dark Knight Rises, Babysitter, Bride of Chucky, The Terminator. All right. What's an obscure horror movie that could benefit from a remake? Trick or Treat, the heavy metal one, I think would make a pretty interesting remake. And you could do some interesting things there with even having like that retro throwback to it, with kids kind of rediscovering vinyls in the last 10 years. So that's one that I think that a really talented writer could do something really interesting with. Thoughts on Breaking Benjamin, and will the Stained album ranking ever see the light of day? Well, Stained is currently making a new album, so maybe when they have their new one, I'll do that one. Yeah, screw the Stained haters. I'm with you. Thoughts on Breaking Benjamin? I'm not a fan. I mean, they got some decent songs, but Breaking Benjamin to me is kind of the epitome of radio rock. Like they're if I think of radio rock and roll, Breaking Benjamin kind of fits exactly the picture that I have in my head. Review series idea. Once per month, you pick a movie off your massive shelf of films that you have been meaning to watch and review it. You even pick like 5 and do a poll or something. Yeah, that's an interesting idea for maybe like a short or something like that. The problem is, and this is where it's always hard to try to balance things. You try to balance things that would be fun for you to do as a creator versus things that somebody would actually want to watch. So there's something interesting in that for me, especially for those that tag along with it and would be curious on how random that would be. But just from a marketing standpoint, let's say, for example, like we'll just call it Random Adventure 3. I pick Random Adventure 3 off of the shelf. All right, guys, that's the pick for this week. Well, when the title and the thumbnail is just Random Adventure 3 movie review, not so many people are going to click on it. And so that hurts the channel a little bit. It hurts engagement. And it makes the time that I spent on it a little bit foolish because this is how I make a living now. So if there's 7 other projects that would have been better to do, it's foolish for me to throw those aside to make time for that one. So I've thought about doing something like that as a YouTube Shorts series, actually, where every single month or every couple weeks or whatever, like, do a video of me going and randomly picking something off the shelf. Okay, we're doing this one, guys, and then maybe do a couple shots of me while I'm watching the movie, and then do like a little final sentence or something. But yeah, there's an idea in there that I like, but it's hard to balance with what people are actually going to want to watch. I didn't see It's a Wonderful Life on your favorite Christmas movies list. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts on it? I've only seen it once. It's good, but it's not a movie I grew up with, and it's not really a movie that's in the rotation of Christmas classics in my house. So that I knew animated movies weren't your thing, but after your passionate words about Toy Story 5, I thought you might have changed. I thought that might have changed. No, I mean, like there's animated movies that I love for sure. The ones that I grew up with, sometime around maybe when I hit 20, like in my early 20s. This Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph was the last animated film that I saw that I really loved and had like a lot of passion and enjoyment for. After that, it's just kind of been like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good, but just I don't know. I'm just never in the mood to watch them. Maybe it's because it's around the time that I had kids, and so there was a lot of animated films just on around, and my wife, animated films on a lot more often than I would have had them, and so I've kind of get burnt out on them just in my peripherals. But Wreck-It Ralph was the last animated film that I really genuinely loved. Hasn't really that and Zootopia. Zootopia was another one that I really enjoyed. So whichever one of those came out first. I think Zootopia was after. But those are the last 2 that I was like really, really a big fan of. Um, but yeah, Toy Story, those are movies and characters that I've been watching ever since I was a kid. So it's very different. Let's see. A lot of conversations going on. Um, have I seen the film Pandorum with Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster? Very good Dead Space-like movie. Also, your thoughts on the band Trivium. Not a big Trivium fan. There's songs that I like by them, but um, they're one of those like throaty Cookie Monster vocal bands that I don't think it's very good. So musically, they're very talented, but whenever that voice kicks in, I'm like, nope, I'm checked out. I have seen Pandorum. Pretty interesting movie. I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but it's certainly it's maybe a little underrated. Maybe I'd call it underrated, but it's not a movie that I thought was a complete knockout. Some interesting ideas, but let's see. Somebody said I missed a super chat. Every time I get one of those saying I missed a super chat, I scroll and I scroll and I just don't see it. Yeah, I don't know. I apologize if I genuinely miss it, guys, but I'm scrolling and like I'm just taking each one as I come to them. So I don't think I'm scrolling past any of them. I'll pull it up over here on my monetization page and double check, but I don't see any that I missed. Anyway, yeah, Motorcycle US. You missed my second super chat in the Bix mix. I didn't see it. I saw the one. What is your favorite Eddie Murphy movie and what is your favorite Robin Williams movie? I get sad every time I watch a Robin Williams movie, man. I get choked up. My favorite Eddie Murphy film is not a popular pick. It's The Golden Child. That one is the one that I watched the most as a kid. That's the one that I get the most laughs out of. Sweet dear brother Noomsy. That one is my favorite. Favorite Robin Williams movie is either Jumanji or Mrs. Doubtfire. Those are my two that I watch probably the most. And very different movies. So it just depends on my mood. I love Hook too. I don't know why there's a certain chunk of people that don't like Hook. It's known as one of Spielberg's worst movies, and I don't know what the fuck those people are smoking. I've always loved that film. Just got off work, so I'm kind of late. Just wanted to show some support. Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. What is your thoughts on the word out there that people are saying Kang is better than Thanos as a villain in the movie? I don't buy that for a second, man. I mean, Thanos was built up for what 10 years, plus he was in 2 movies. This would be the first time we're seeing Kang. I don't buy into any of the Marvel hype anymore, like the early release hype. Like those movies, I hate to be that guy because I'm always the guy that says, "Hey, everybody's opinion is valid," and don't ever think that. I don't like when people assign motivations or motives to people like you only like this because this. I had people say that to me about like Terrifier 2 and stuff. Like, you only liked it because you saw the fucking premiere at the festival. If you had watched it at home, you wouldn't have liked it. And I'm like, well, no. But history has shown that there's something a little funky about the early release, like the very early reviews that we get for Marvel films. And I'm not saying that people are paid off. I don't believe that. And I hate when people bring that up. But what I do believe is that some of these people that get to these big, flashy Hollywood premieres, they get masked by that experience a little bit. And it's very different than me at a theater in the middle of Texas that a couple of people just happened to be in that made the film. Like this is red carpet type shit. Because you always see the same thing. You always see the same verbiage in all these early releases, like, you're not ready for Ant-Man and Quantumania. This totally changes the game for the MCU. Kang is one of the greatest villains we've had in this universe so far, and he's about to rough everybody up. Um, I mean, it's the same verbiage over and over. I'm shook. I'm mesmerized. And it's like, guys, you're trying real fucking hard to get on the poster. And there are people on Twitter. There's people that I know. I'm not going to name names. There's people that I know. There's people that I'm friends with that I know for a fact play that game. When they get a chance to see a movie, they word their tweet in a certain way to try to get retweeted, to try to get featured in the marketing because it's like it's an ego boost. And so I've gotten to the point now to where after phase 4, I've had so many mediocre experiences in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to where I'm just going to wait to see the movie. I don't want to see all the early reactions telling me how this movie is going to blow my fucking balls off because it hasn't happened in a very long time, especially in this universe. So anybody saying like Kang is the greatest villain, better than Thanos, it's like, okay, dude, he's in one movie, and I guarantee he's probably not in every scene of the movie. Like Thanos, much bigger deal than what I mean. Kang is going to be built up to be by the end of this phase, and or the next phase, whatever it is, the next couple phases, he might end up being better than Thanos. But in one fucking movie, calm down. I find it commendable that you have resisted diving into the merch business. Anyone else would have had opinions of like asshole shirts and mugs by now. Well, I have a merch store. I have a merch store and I have an opinions of like assholes shirt and coffee mug. But yeah, I just I don't promote it very much. To be honest with you, it's because I bought a couple of shirts from Teespring, the company that I have my merch store through. And one of them, the very first time that I watched it, the design started to disintegrate. And so I don't know if I washed it wrong or if their products are just a little iffy, but I haven't been able to find a better alternative. I had Spreadshirt for a while, and I didn't like Spreadshirt, and so I went over to Teespring because Teespring is the only one that has integration with YouTube where you can actually have on your videos, like, a scrollable merch store, but I haven't been in love with the quality of Teespring either, and so you have some content creators out there that actually have, like, some kind of a partnership deal with actual apparel companies or something. They have, like, legit professional websites and things, and that's kind of the direction that I would want to go before I ever really start pushing a merch store, before I start advertising it regularly, but I don't know where to do that yet. I haven't really pounded the pavement or knocked on enough doors. But yeah, I sorry to disappoint you, but yes, I have all of those things. What is your favorite Steve Martin movie? Easily by a landslide is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's in my top 5 favorite comedies of all time. Love that one. One that I always like by him that not enough people talk about is Bringing Down the House. That's a really funny movie with him and Queen Latifah. I have looked at that picture a lot. Thank you so much. Go. Getting more horror movie games lately. Evil Dead recently and Killer Clowns and Texas Chainsaw coming out soon. What movie would you like a game of? I don't want any of them until they stop making these fucking asymmetrical multiplayer games out of all of them. Evil Dead bored the piss out of me. I played it for like 2.5 hours, and I was like, I'm already bored with this. Killer Clowns looks like it's gonna be the same thing. Texas Chainsaw looks like it's gonna be the same thing. One villain, bunch of innocent people. This guy chases these people. Who wins? And so I don't like that style of game. The Friday the 13th Dead by Daylight model. And so until they want to do something actually story based or something else, I don't care to see anymore because they're all the same game with a new coat of paint. Did you ever do your January horror pack movies? No, no, not yet. I plan to start integrating those into my off the shelves videos so that I can knock out both and not for the same reasons I was talking about earlier that they're not a video that get very much views. Um, I had only I need to check. I had only agreed to do I think 5 unboxing videos with them because it was a little partnership deal that I had with them, but they've just kept sending them to me. And so I don't know if I'm supposed to continue doing those videos or not. I need to reach out and find them, but I'm like, yeah, we were only supposed to do 5. Like these aren't well performing videos for me. I love your service. I like your product, so I'm happy to do them, but I don't want to keep doing them every month. So I wanted to just kind of integrate them into my off the shelves because I think it's a really cool service. Unfortunately, I own a lot of fucking movies, so sometimes I'm not as excited about some of the inclusions as others would be because it's just a shot. It's a fucking dice roll of whether or not I already have the movie or not. But I didn't have. I've only bought 5 movies, 6 movies in the past 2 months, and so I haven't really had enough to do an off the shelves video. So long-winded answer, but no, I haven't done it yet. What kind of horror movie would you write? I have 2. I need to finally just take a little break and sit down and actually write sometime, because I love to write. But there's 2 ideas for movies that I would love to sit down and actually flesh out into, like, a full-on story. One of them I've talked about before is a direct sequel to Dream Warriors. I would love to do that just to have, like, a video on it one day where I just read it and have some graphics. My idea for a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But another one, an idea that I've been thinking about a lot, and I have this where I get an idea for a movie and it's just like, damn, like I can't get it out of my head. Um, I've talked a lot about how I want vampire movies to come back, and nobody's really doing it. Not the way that I think vampire movies should be. Like we're still kind of in that era to where Twilight has kind of ruined vampires and werewolves for the foreseeable future. But old school, scary, gory kind of vampire movie. And I had an idea for one that I just kept kind of I don't it was when I was at the gym and when I was doing other things, I just kept kind of piecing together this story in my head and I can't get it out of my head where you have like the main character of the movie would be this kid in a neighborhood and he's got like kind of a bad upbringing, like his stepdad or his mom's boyfriend is kind of an asshole, kind of abusive. His mom doesn't really do much about it. Like she's kind of a shit mom. And so he's one of those loner kids that doesn't really doesn't get treated well at school, doesn't have a whole lot of friends, and there's this house in their neighborhood to where the guy that owns it only comes out at night. And through an again, I haven't sat down to flesh out 100% the ideas yet, but through some event, he would eventually either stumble into this guy's house during the day or something, through he would eventually find out that this guy seems like he's a vampire, this guy in this neighborhood. And I would want it to be something along the lines of like Sling Blade meets Apt Pupil, to where this troubled kid builds this relationship with this guy who is a vampire, who's a recluse. And what I would eventually go through with the story is have this vampire be like the only father figure that this kid has. And by the end of the film, or the story, I guess, I always think of it as a movie, but by the end of the story, there would be some kind of a situation like the vampire character is somebody that doesn't go out and kill. He tries to rob blood banks or find other ways to suppress the vampirism. And there would be a situation by the end of it similar to Sling Blade, to where the stepfather or the wife's boyfriend would either end up really hurting the kid or something, and it would drive the vampire to fucking kill his ass. Um, and I would want to have a situation by the end of it to where either in the scuffle of all of that, or the mom, having seen what just happened, would try to shoot the guy, the vampire character or something. And in some way, the kid would end up getting mortally wounded, and the vampire would have to make a choice by the end of it to let the kid die, the only human interaction that he has, that he was just trying to protect, or bite him and let the kid have the same curse that he has. So again, very, very primitive, fleshed out, barely fleshed out ideas. But those are just the like little notes in the story that I keep thinking of like randomly, like, oh, that would be really interesting. Like, I just can't get that idea out of my head. Something to do really interesting with the vampire that's more of a drama, but would have some explosions of violence here and there. So that's an idea that I would like to do at some point. I would like to sit down and actually kind of write it out. Hide and Pride, thank you so much. Hey, Cody, thoughts on the 2005 House of Wax? Very underrated. Very underrated. That's a really cool movie. A lot of people gave it a lot of shit at some point or when it came out, because Paris Hilton was in it. And she was kind of, that was at height Paris Hilton fame. But it's actually a really solid slasher film. It's got some gnarly kills in it. It's got some pretty good effects. It's got some pretty good characters. Just the concept is very grim and morbid. Housing living people in wax, like sewing their mouths shut, sewing their, they pouring scalding hot wax over them and encasing them into these things, and they just sit there and they just slowly die. Like, that's pretty fucked up. So yeah, that's a movie that I think I'd love to do a review on at some point. That's a movie I think that is highly underrated. Probably wasn't seen among sea of spam and super chats, all good, but when it was discussed about a Nightmare on Elm Street TV series, I mentioned there was one. I feel like I'm on an island with this knowledge. No, you're not. A lot of people know about Freddy's Nightmares, but Freddy's Nightmares was barely a Freddy show. That was just like a Tales from the Crypt thing. So when people talk about a Nightmare on Elm Street TV series, they're talking about a series based on Freddy, based on Springwood. A lot of people know about that show, but it's kind of a Freddy show, but not really. He's like the crypt keeper of that little anthology series. Did you ever do your horror movie? Oh, well, I already answered that one. Let's see here. Rank these random bands: Tool, Blink 182, Stone Temple Pilots, Korn. I'm not really a fan of any of them, to be honest with you. I mean, there's some Stone Temple Pilots songs that I like, but I'm not a huge fan. That's what's one of my just above Pearl Jam. If I was to rank like the major grunge bands, they would be like number 4. It would be Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam. But as far as your list, maybe Tool at the bottom. I've never really given them a chance, but their stuff's not really for me. Blink 182. I'm not a big punk guy, but there's a handful of Blink 182 songs I know just because I grew up in that era. Then Korn, which there's maybe 5 songs by Korn that I genuinely like, and then Stone Temple Pilots. But it's not a very passionate ranking. Have you heard the band Sleep Token? Yay, they've been blowing up in the scene. I have nope. Never heard of them. Do you stream or Blu-ray movies most of the time? I buy Blu-rays not nearly as often as I used to, just for the sake of running out of room. I most of the time when I'm watching TV, it's streaming. Whatever's on, usually it's TV shows. I watch a lot of YouTube, or I'll find something like I'll search a movie, and a lot of times I'll be in the mood for a couple different things, and I'll check one and see if it's available on any of the streaming services I have. If it's not, I'll move to the next one. If not, I'll just find something. I usually will do that game before I put the remote down, walk all the way upstairs, pick one of these, go all the way downstairs, put it in the Xbox or the PlayStation, then get the controller, switch the TV over. So more often than not, I'm watching streaming, but if I like a movie, I always buy it 100% of the time. What is your opinion on The Strangers? Extremely overrated. I don't think the first one's a very good movie at all. The second one's decent, but that was another one where it came out and everybody's like, fucking best slasher in years. I'm like, what the fuck movie did you watch? It's okay. So I'm not a big fan of the slashers or strangers. Hey, brother, I'm a huge fan of your channel. Been following a long time. 2 questions. What's your favorite Metallica song? And have you seen The Batman any more times since? My favorite Metallica song is probably For Whom the Bell Tolls. But I have, yeah, that one's probably my favorite. But I have, if I was to do like a top 10, there would be like a no order whatsoever. Music is very hard for me to rank because I have a love for certain songs, certain bands, certain albums for different reasons. Albums are easy for me to rank, but songs and bands, not so much. I've seen The Batman 3 times. I saw it twice in theaters and I watched it once with my dad. So yeah, it's a masterpiece in my opinion. Night of the Demons, Angela's dance scene. I've only seen it once, and it was okay. I need to watch it again. I don't think I was in the right mood to watch it. I just thought it was just decent. Do you think Prey reinvigorated the Predator franchise? Also, what would you want to see in a future Predator film? I hope it reinvigorated the Predator franchise because it was damn good. What would I want to see in a future Predator film? I would be okay. I think they've already announced that they're going to be going and doing a sequel with the character from Prey, which is fine. But I would be okay with them just doing movies where the Predator goes to different settings in different time periods. Like somebody had presented the idea of the Predator going to like the samurai era Japan, and I'm like, fuck yes, give me that. That would be badass. So that's kind of the idea that would interest me more is just standalone stories where you get some new type of predator that we've never seen before, some variant of armor that goes to some part of the world in some time period, and you have a battle of wills. That to me sounds more interesting than going back to the character who I loved, the character from Prey, and she just encounters another predator. Are you excited about Beau is Afraid, the new film by Ari Aster with Joaquin Phoenix? No. Ari Aster, I like Hereditary. It's not a movie that I would necessarily watch over and over again. There's things about it that I really like and respect. It's very creepy. It's a film that was worth discussing a lot, but it wasn't one that I was like blown away by like everybody else. And I was not a fan of Midsummer. I need to give it a second watch at some point, but so fucking long and boring. But it's a movie I was not all that enamored with. And so Ari Aster is one of those guys that's kind of like Robert Eggers was, where totally acknowledge that this guy is a fantastic filmmaker, that is a very respectable body of work just in a short period of time. But the movies aren't necessarily for me. And so, like with Robert Eggers, I was like, yeah, The Witch, interesting. Not really something I'd watch again. The Lighthouse, really not for me. Nope, not a fan. And then you got The Northman, where I'm like, hey, I actually kind of like this one, but I don't think I'd watch it again. So he's kind of in that category, that new elevated horror, where very good filmmaker, but not necessarily making movies for me. So the trailer looked really fucking weird with that one. Looked really weird. So I don't know what to expect. I'll see it, but no, it's not something I'm looking forward to. Not my wavelength. Ugh. Marvel is garbage now. Wash, beat the meat, rinse, repeat. Never heard it phrased that way before. I wouldn't say that they're garbage. It's just that they built up to Endgame so well that Endgame felt like such a conclusion that everybody was just kind of like, okay, are we should we even bother? Like, is there anything you're going to be building up to that's going to be anywhere near as significant or as good as that? And Phase 4 did a horrible job at convincing most of us otherwise. It's just like, okay, so we're just going to keep just just keep making movies and a shitload of TV shows and just doing a bunch of random stuff. I know there's a little through line, but for the most part, there were very different, wild ideas that didn't seem all that connected or consistent. And hopefully, Phase 5 changes that conversation because I love Marvel. I love a lot of the MCU stuff, but Phase 4 just seriously took the wind out of my sails. Ugh. What area level of RE4 are you most looking forward to, and what new elements do you hope they bring to it? Thanks, Cody. I'm probably most looking forward to seeing some of the changes that they do to the castle segment. We've already seen a lot of the village, but the castle segment is where things get really creepy, where the like just things like that, things that are in my head that I know these characters in that segment are saying, and the robed dudes, and even the stuff where you got like the Wolverine guys, where you got to be quiet and they can't see you and they slash at you, like what that's gonna look like. Some of the segments where you have to get up in the sniper area and you have to protect Ashley and they're grabbing her, Leon, help me. I know they're doing a lot to improve the Ashley side of it, so I'm really curious on the castle segment, and the villain, the short guy. Is it Salazar? I can't remember his name, but yeah, the castle segment is what I'm most curious about. The what let's see, what new elements do you hope they bring to it? Well, improving the Ashley stuff for sure. I hope that they take the approach that the Dead Space remake and the Resident Evil 2 remake had, to where they don't take anything away. They might improve or change a couple of segments, but I'm gonna be really upset if we pop in RE4 and it's there's a lot of stuff missing. Like there's segments of the game just straight out cut out. Because that's the beefiest Resident Evil game by far, and that's the one that fans are probably most passionate about. And so I would be really upset if we play that and it's like, okay, you changed some things, but you're missing this entire segment. This segment's like half the length that it was, like what they did with Resident Evil 3 to a degree. I don't want that. So that's what I'm hoping they don't do. But there's much more of a focus this time around on horror, it seems, and being dark and creepy, and a little bit less of maybe the camp and action kind of tone that the original had. So I hope if they do that, they just pull it off well, because the camp and the action is kind of the charm of that one. So I hope they don't lose what made that one great. Why does Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City get so much hate from the RE community? It's legit good in my opinion. I hope we get a sequel. Well, we're not. I can guarantee you that. I'm in the middle on this one because I'm somebody that I liked that movie while acknowledging that it's not a very good movie. It can't get out of its own way. If they had just made a movie based off of the first game instead of trying to do two games in one, I think it would have worked out a lot better. But you essentially have this thing to where why did the Resident Evil fan community backlash at it? Because it's not a completely faithful representation of either of those games. They had to make a lot of compromises to do them in one. And the weirdest thing about it is that you have some really passionate, faithful recreations of things, like the way that they created some of the sets, the way that they represented a couple of segments of the game, even just Easter eggs like Itchy Tasty being written on the door, the zombie turning around like the original game, like all these Midnight Sonata, things like Moonlight Sonata, things like that. That's like on the level of what The Last of Us is doing. It's like straight up beautiful fan service. But then you'll have things like Leon, that is like what the fuck happened to Leon? Like, that's not Leon. You made him a complete dumbass. That's such a disrespectful version of Leon. And a couple other the things in the movie. That's just like, wait a minute. How the fuck do you get this so right and you get this so wrong? Even Lisa, shit, I'm forgetting the name. The monster from the Resident Evil remake that has the faces on her, Lisa something. You had that character brought in and they didn't do anything with it. And it was like, well, so that was just in there just to be there. So that's why. It's because they fucked up as much as they got right. I enjoyed it for what it was, but that was a baffling movie. Have you seen the Netflix series You yet? Some people said it's got a Dexter vibe. Austin Burke said it's good. I might check it out. I answered the question a little earlier, but I said the same thing, but in a negative way. My wife was watching it. She was like maybe 3 episodes in. I sat down and watched an episode or 2 with her, and I was like, this is kind of a lame ripoff of Dexter. It's exactly like Dexter. It's him talking, like monologuing and narrating the show in his head, and he's like a psycho stalker murderer instead of a somebody killing killers. He's like stalking whoever he's infatuated with or in love with. And it's got like a social media spin on it. So I haven't given the show enough of a chance to really be able to say passionately one way or the other, but all I can say is what I did see of it, I thought it was a pretty lame version of a Dexter ripoff. Let's see. Pitch for a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie to say screw it and I make a direct sequel to Freddy's Dead, much like Curse of Chucky to Seed of Chucky. Just say screw it and make a direct sequel. No, don't go to Freddy's Dead. No. No. They did a sequel to Seed of Chucky because Don Mancini is stubborn. And he's like, no, Seed of Chucky will always be part of this canon. But no, I would have a fucking stroke if they said we're doing a direct sequel to Freddy's Dead. Like, what? Oh, let's see. Hey man, I was wondering if you took editing classes or taught yourself. Also, how do you get good audio quality for your videos? I'm completely self-taught. So I've found out either through trial and error or experimentation or looking up videos on how to do certain things in Premiere Pro. Sometimes I've kind of learned through watching. Like you'll notice people like really successful channels do certain editing tricks, and you're like, okay, why did they do that? What were they trying to achieve with that? And you kind of apply it to your own videos. So yeah, I'm 100% self-taught. How do you get good audio quality for your videos? Well, aside from the live streams where I'm using this Shure mic, I use this. So this is a Zoom H1 hand recorder, and I have this lapel mic plugged into it, which is a cheap little Sony mic. This is only like a $20 mic. I need to improve and get one at some point, but it's always been a pretty solid mic. But get a lapel mic, and it's one that clips on your shirt, and it's a directional microphone, so it just catches the good ones, just catch your voice, and they tend to mask out all the background noise. And that's what I use for good audio. So that is the secret. You get some people that use shotgun mics, the ones that are like the big tubular mics that go onto their camera, but you'll pick up a lot of background noise on that. You have to have a very specific environment. You have to have a very audio friendly environment with like foam on the wall and stuff like that, and not a whole lot of echo and bouncing around. This tends to be the best bang for your buck is something like this. Any new thoughts on Halloween Ends now that dust is settled? I like Ends more on every rewatch on like Kills. No, not really. My opinion is pretty solidified on that one. It's a movie that I think is got some interesting ideas, but is a baffling choice for the concluding chapter of that trilogy. What would be your ranking of Metallica studio albums? Also, do you consider Garage Inc. as a true album or just a cool experiment? I wouldn't include that if I was going to do a ranking. I would just do their original material. But I don't know. Off the top of my head, which I would have to sit down and think, but you would have like Saint Anger at the bottom. You would have I would probably put Kill 'Em All just above that, which might be unpopular, but Kill 'Em All is a very, very, very rough recording. That is a very low budget album. If they Remastered it, I might be more of a fan of that stuff, but that is a rough album to listen to. So Saint Anger, Kill 'Em All, I would probably put above that. Shit. Probably Death Magnetic, then Hardwired to Self-Destruct, Reload. Oh, fuck. I'm trying to think of all their albums in my head now. And Justice for All, Load, Ride the Lightning, Master Puppets. Did I forget one? Something like that. Do you like The Last of Us Part 2? How do you think they will adapt it to the show? I love The Last of Us Part 2. That's one of those games that I'm passionately on the side where I totally understand what they were going for with it, and it worked for me. How do I think they'll adapt it to a show? I don't know. That's a big question because there's a lot of things about it they're either going to have to retool or reconfigure or move around. And I think they're going to do it over a couple different seasons, like season 2, season 3. So we will see how that goes. How do you think they will adapt The Last of Us 2? Just answered that. Oh, that's the same person. Okay. How close are your shelves to being full? Well, I have emptied them a couple of times. I stopped putting duplicates in there. I have a bunch of duplicates that are actually up in some movie shelves in my attic. I have a couple hundred Blu-rays up there where I've rebought something or I've upgraded to 4K and I move the older version upstairs. As of right now, I've consolidated it and moved it around to where I should have space for the next at least 2 years or so. But I probably have 2/3 to 3/4 of an empty shelf if I was to put all the empty space together. So hopefully that'll last me a little while, and then I'm gonna have a problem. Then I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do. Do you like The Last of Us Part 2? Well, there you go. Paid for a second version. Have you seen the movie The Vampire Assistant? No, I have not. It was based on the book Cirque du Freak and starred John C. Reilly. They should have done more. Yeah, I could picture the movie. I remember when it came out, but no, I wasn't really. I'm not really into vampire family comedy type stuff. Or I don't know if it was family, but vampire comedy stuff. I'm craving good old school rated R vampires. So that's what I want. Watch Ari Aster's The Strange Thing About the Johnsons and thank me later. What is that? The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. Is that like is that a movie that he made that I don't know about? Oh wow, dude. You don't have to that I've never seen a super chat spam before. You can just do it once. I will eventually get to it, I promise. I appreciate the donations, but yeah, you can just do that once. Lisa Trevor, thank you. That was the question I had from earlier. Let me see here. Let me scroll just for a minute, make sure I didn't miss anything. Um, okay, just making sure. Doesn't look like I missed anything. I always see these comments like, "You missed my thing," and I'm like, "Did I miss it or did I just not get to it yet?" Because then I scroll and I don't see it. All right. Thoughts on Netflix, Lucifer, or The Sandman? I have not watched either one of them. I've heard Lucifer is very good. I just haven't had the time to start a new series. I don't have the energy for a new series. The Sandman didn't really have a whole lot of interest in. I don't know a lot about The Sandman. I heard that one was good as well, but like I said, it's so hard to watch everything. It feels like there's a new series that everybody's raving about like every week, and so it's impossible. You got to pick and choose. I don't know if this has been asked yet, but what's your opinion on the band Ice Nine Kills and their horror-inspired lyrics? If you've heard them, of course. I have only listened to the one that was like, um, it was like a Chucky-based song, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good at all. So I don't know. I haven't given them enough of a chance to be able to say for sure, but that one sure didn't do anything for me. All right. And And Justice for All below Load. I love Load. I am a 90s Metallica fan, and I think that that's another thing that you will passionately get me ranting on. I think that if any other band in existence released Load and most of Reload, there's some weak stuff on Reload because it's quite literally leftovers. But if any other band had released Load, it would be hailed as this classic. But because it was Metallica and it wasn't Master of Puppets Part 4, people shit all over it. Load is a really fucking good album. It's just not what people wanted. And I always loved and respected that about Metallica is that they do what they want. They're not somebody that you could just fit into a box. And they're not somebody they're like, okay, you want us to do Master Puppets 8 times? You want us to do Black Album Part 2? Sure. They're like, no, we want to do something different. And Justice for All is kind of along the same lines of Kill 'Em All. There's some damn good music on Injustice for All, but it is mixed like shit. It's no secret whatsoever that they pretty much took the bass out of the music entirely. Like, I don't know if it was a subtle fuck you to Jason Newsted or what, but his side of it is non-existent. It's just it's a really weird sounding album because it's so tinty and so it's such a unique sound to it that I don't particularly like. It's another album that if they remastered it or re-recorded it, excuse me, I would probably like it more. I certainly love some of those songs, especially when they play them live, but as an album, yeah, it's just it's mixed really weird. Have I seen Parasite? Yeah, the best picture winner from a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's good. I wasn't as enamored with it as everybody else. I wasn't as shocked at like the final act as everybody else. I kind of saw it coming to a degree. Not specifically what happened, but I had just watched Martyrs like that same year for the first time, and Martyrs was a much more shocking version of that same kind of reveal to a degree. But yeah, it's a really well written movie. It's a well done movie. It's a good story, but I wasn't as crazy about it as everybody else. If I had done a ranking of movies that year, it probably wouldn't have been in my top 10. You're still up? Yes, I am, Rudy. Yes, I am. What are your thoughts on the video game Atomic Heart? On that note, though, I probably will end it at 3 hours, so another 14 minutes or so, guys. Thoughts on the video game Atomic Heart? I have never heard of it. I don't know. I don't even know what that is. What type of game? So yeah, I'm not sure. Ever been to any famous horror filming locations? Well, I actually did a video on Thanksgiving Day. I released it. It was called Field Trip of Flesh. And it's me, it's Rudy, who I was just talking to from Gen X Reviews, and Uncle Sean. And we went around to a bunch of Texas Chainsaw filming locations and one Friday the 13th filming location. So that is my only experience with shooting locations. We have the Forrest Gump bench down in downtown Savannah, but the bench is not there anymore. It's just a bush. So technically I've been to a Forrest Gump filming location, but what's significant about it is gone. So it's not that special. But yeah, go check out that video. It's a fun one. Am I going to review The Retaliators? You know, I actually had my eye on that movie before the end of the year, and it totally slipped my mind. So it is something that looked interesting from the trailer, but I just ran out of time to check it out. Rank Draculas, please. Shrek, Lugosi, Lee, Oldman. Lugosi at the top, Shrek below that, and I don't really have much experience with the others. I haven't seen Bram Stoker's Dracula since I was a kid, and I've meant to, but I haven't seen it. I have no memory of it whatsoever, and I've never seen any of the Christopher Lee movies. So it's been a while. Sorry for the spam. Never done a super chat. Love your channel. Hey, no problem. No problem. Corey Nelson, $4.99. Having Blade PG-13 is not going to sell. Rated R is better. Well, you might speak too soon. It all depends on execution. I'm not happy about having a rated PG-13 Blade. Here's how I look at it. There's two reasons why I'm not really that excited about this. Number one is because Blade is a vampire killer, and we have the Wesley Snipes movies, and I love those movies. Even the third one, which is not very good. I still get guilty pleasure out of it, but 1 and 2 are fucking awesome. So I don't really want a PG-13 version of that anyway. But here's where the issue comes in. Okay, so you're gonna make it PG-13 to make Blade fit into the MCU. How does Blade fit into the MCU? So now vampires have existed this entire time. Where have they been? And are we gonna have random vampires show up within these MCU movies now? And so to me, like one of the things that James Gunn announced with his DC announcement that made a lot of sense and made me very happy was that he talked about the DC Elseworld stuff. So when they have things like Matt Reeves' The Batman, Joker, or other movies that are standalone stories, you title it under DC Elseworlds and everybody understands, okay, so these are separate. We're not going to see these interact with Superman and Wonder Woman and all of them. And the MCU, I think, would benefit with something like that because you have characters like Deadpool that they've already said they're going to keep him rated R, so he's his own thing. Well, if he can be his own thing, then why the fuck can't Blade and some of these other characters that to me don't make any sense to be commingling with? Uh, Seeing Blade stand next to Thor, my brain doesn't compute that. And so to me, you're sacrificing what the fan base would want just to make it fit into your universe when it would be very, very easy to just have him be his own thing. So yeah, I don't know. They may prove me wrong, but Blade, while being the project coming up that I'm potentially the most curious and interested in, is also the one that I'm simultaneously least excited about because I don't see it. I don't see it working. My brain just doesn't work that into something that makes sense. Do you ever watch any other YouTuber reviews to hear their thoughts? I watched you, Sean, Chris Stuckman, and Jeremy Johns and Austin Burke. Sometimes after I've already dropped my review, if it's a certain movie that I'm curious on the conversation on, I might watch a few other reviews. But for the most part, I don't really watch too much movie related stuff on YouTube. I spend so much time talking about movies and making videos about movies and answering comments about movies that I kind of need a break. And so when I go on YouTube, it's primarily sometimes it's video game stuff, not gaming like live streaming. I'm not somebody that enjoys watching other people play games, but like game rankings or something like that, or game announcements, or for the most part, it's cooking stuff. I watch a lot of cooking channels, cooking content, cooking instructionals, cooking recipes and stuff that stuff relaxes me. So if it's a movie like Knock at the Cabin, for example, I got out of that and I was like, I'm interested what some other people might be saying. So once I film my review and put it out, I watched Sean's review, um, maybe one more. I can't remember. But yeah, I might watch one or two if it's something there's going to be a lot of discussion on it, or if it's something where I'm like, man, I'm not tracking with what everybody else was saying about this, and I'll try to watch their review and figure out why everybody loves this or why everybody hates this. And I felt the opposite. Rank your favorite swears. I don't know, man. Fuck's number one. There you go. Number one, number two, number three, number four. Also, Angry Joe. Oh, okay. Yeah, I never watch Angry Joe. Kind of scared of the director of the OG Silent Hill film coming back for another after the Konami announcement. A series seems more fitting. I don't know. The original Silent Hill is a pretty good movie. That's a pretty good video game movie. So I'm curious years later when he comes back, if especially in light of The Last of Us, if that's going to change anything about video game adaptation. So I'm curious about that one. Let's see. Am I caught up? Holy shit. I am caught up. Woo! All right. If it works in the comics with Blade, it could work in the movies. Well, I've never read a comic. To be honest with you, I didn't even know Blade was a comic book character until after the third movie came out. I never realized that was a Marvel character. That's why when everybody, like when you bring up movies that was kind of the ones that finally changed how people viewed comic book movies, and people bring up like Bryan Singer's X-Men, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Batman Begins. There's always people that are like, what about Blade? Nobody ever gives Blade any credit. And my response is always because most people that watch Blade had no fucking idea that was a comic book movie. There's probably people today that still don't realize that Blade is a comic book movie. They see it as a vampire movie. So yeah, I've never read the comics. Maybe it makes sense, but with Blade, my only experience being Wesley Snipes movies, that doesn't make sense to me to have that character going, or a vampire hunter hanging out with the Eternals and Thor and Doctor Strange. It's weird to me. Whoops, didn't mean to bring that up again. Final thoughts on Velma. Don't spam, guys, please. I see that 3 times. Final thoughts on Velma. I haven't watched Velma. I don't have any interest in really watching it. I know enough about it to know that I would hate it. And the fact that I've seen comments made by some of the people that work on the show trying to play that game, like people don't like it because of X, Y, and Z. So you must be this. That's the kind of stuff where I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to give your shit a shot now. It was the same thing like whenever, not exactly the same thing, but to give you an example of what I'm talking about, when was it Turning Red? When Turning Red came out, and anybody that didn't love it, they were like, well, you must hate women. I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to bother watching this fucking movie then, because I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm not going to be a part of that conversation. So continue to go ahead and have that argument with people and market your films and try to shit on your potential audience by doing shit like that. If you don't do this, you're this, or if you do this, you're this, and see how far it gets you. Because there's a lot of people like me that live in the gray that aren't sexist or racist or misogynist or whatever you want to say it, and just simply don't have interest in watching an animated film about a girl getting her period. And that's where it starts and that's where it ends. But this whole new age thing about like nobody saw the Ghostbusters remake because they don't like women or stuff like that. Like those are the times where I'm like, shut the fuck up. Or that one, what was the one last year? Was it Bros? I don't remember specifically what the guy said, so I'm misquoting, but there was something going around where he was suggesting that anybody that doesn't go see this is probably like doesn't like gay people or something. There was some form of that statement, and it was just like, okay, well, if that's your argument, I'm not even going to bother watching your movie, because there's probably a lot of other reasons, like the fact I've never fucking heard of your movie or saw it advertised until your little spiel gets sent around on Twitter. So I don't know. That's a little mini rant, but I can't stand the people that do that. If you don't this, then you must be a ist. Punisher needs to be violent rated R. See, there's another character. It's a Marvel character that just to me wouldn't make any sense going around in the PG-13 world. Let's see. Velma or Daphne? I don't know. There's aspects to both of them that I like. And it feels weird that I'm having this debate in my head about cartoon characters. But yeah, I don't know. It depends. Do you like the more down to earth, smart girl, the nerdy girl, or do you like the more popular girl, princess type? Sonic 1 or 2? I prefer the second one. I like the first one, but I prefer the second one quite a bit. Do you have any books or comic books that you think deserve a film adaptation? I really like the Preacher comics, and I did not like the show that was on FX. I didn't like the show at all. I thought it was stupid as fuck that they made the entire first season just like the first page. Like the way that the Preacher comic books open up, the town blows up within the first couple of pages, and that's what sets them on their journey. And they spent an entire season fleshing out these characters in this town just to blow them up at the end and then send them on the road. And it's just, and I tried watching season 2, and aside from the first episode that I thought was pretty good, I quickly fell out of it again. So Preacher to me was a really, really, really cool story with cool characters that could have been a badass series, and I just did not like what they did with it at all. X-Men film ranking video. Love to hear your thoughts. Do I not have one on the channel? I feel like I've done one before, but maybe I haven't. I don't know. Whenever we eventually get X-Men in the MCU, I'll for sure do one. But yeah, I thought that I had one on my channel. Maybe I don't. I don't know. The lead actor of Bros definitely said that. Yeah, it was something along those lines. Or it was just like, of course, anybody that went to see it was one of those suggestions that just makes me just I roll my eyes and immediately just dismiss whatever it is they're talking about. I'm like, okay, whatever. Better Invisible Man movie, Hollow Man or The Invisible Man? Ooh. They're both really fucking good. I'm probably more partial to Hollow Man because I've loved that movie for a lot longer, and The Invisible Man's only a couple years old, but they're both really fucking good. Um, for anybody that hasn't seen Hollow Man, like I know a lot of people saw Invisible Man because it's recent, but anybody that hasn't seen Hollow Man, it's a Invisible Man movie with Kevin Bacon from like, I don't know, 2000, 2001, something like that. That is a badass movie. So yeah, I'd probably give the edge to Hollow Man. Do you think that The Thing sequel will ever be made? I hope not, because I love the ending of that movie the way that it is. I don't want any follow-up. I mean, I would be okay with another Thing movie as long as it's separate, like a reboot or a remake or something that's separate from John Carpenter's movie. But if they go and do a sequel and you get like a definitive answer of who survived at the end, who was the Thing, that would, to me, that would suck. I would be pissed about that. All right. I'm gonna do 5 more questions and then I'm out for the night, guys. Been doing it for 3 hours. Did Cody ever review the Human Centipede movies or vomit gore movies? Cody has no interest in watching those movies. I'm not into the video nasties or whatever you call it, so I'll never watch any of the Human Centipede movies. I'll never watch uh Serbian film and stuff like that. Like it's just I just don't need to. I don't see myself getting very much entertainment off of them, and so I don't feel like I need to watch them. I don't have the obligation to, and I certainly would not want to make content off of it. So, no is the short answer. I was wondering what your thoughts are on Bryan Cranston claiming the Chip commercial will be his last appearance as Walter White. A lot of people are upset claiming he's sold out. They can shut the fuck up. They can shut the fuck up. That commercial is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. He's sold out because he's an actor that took a paycheck. I get so sick of people that saying that sold out. Like it just there's versions of selling out. There's versions of selling out. Somebody doing something creative or cool or taking a paycheck for something that's actually good, that's not selling out. So no, that fucking commercial, I laughed my ass off. And that's hilarious to me. That's genius marketing. So no, anybody who's upset about that, just fucking just shut the hell up. As far as that being his last appearance as Walter White, that's fine. I mean, I assumed he wasn't going to be Walter White anymore after Breaking Bad ended, and we've seen him twice since then, and now the commercial. So it's whatever. Thoughts on The Walking Dead? I did a Walking Dead ranking just a couple of months ago, so check that out for a lot more of my thoughts. I watched the last like 4 seasons, kind of binged through them, and then ranked all of the seasons as the show ended. My overall thoughts on the show, though, is that they really lost their way after the first 2 seasons. I loved the show when Frank Darabont was in charge of it. After Frank Darabont left, there was a big quality dip to me. And ironically, the same exact time that he left was when they started implementing the 16 episode seasons. And I don't think a single season of Walking Dead ever had enough story to effectively fill out 16 episodes. It always felt like there was half of a season worth of story, and then there was a lot of filler. There was a lot of, a little bit quieter character stuff that wasn't as compelling as it should have been. There was a lot of baffling decisions throughout the series about killing certain characters off and keeping certain characters alive that just made no sense whatsoever for the story. Specifically with some changes that they made from the comic books, like the way that they took out Carl made no sense. And they basically just replace his character with Judith. And it's like, well, what the fuck was the point then? And it's they also had this really weird structure to it after a while, to where eventually, usually a season of television has a season specific storyline, some problem, some conflict that has to be resolved within this season. And there's little tiny elements that carry over, either carry from the previous season or carry on to the next one, that kind of connect it together and keep the storyline going. But for the most part, a storyline is the season. And The Walking Dead always did this weird thing to where every season, the first half is the second half of last season's story, and the second half of this season is the first half of next season's story. So it always felt like the season break points were off by like 6 or 7 episodes. Like you had season 4 that starts off with or is it season 4? I'm trying to think specifically the best example to use. I mean, season 4 is kind of that way where you have the aftermath of the governor and the prisoner, stuff like that for the first half of the season. And then the season ends after the governor gets killed. And then the next half of the season is the beginning of Terminus. And that leads into season 5. And the first half of season 5 is the aftermath of Terminus. And the second half of season 5 is the beginning of Alexandria. And then the first half of season 6 is the aftermath of Alexandria, and then the first half of the Saviors, and then season 7 is the aftermath of the Saviors, and that it was that weird thing where it just felt like the seasons were broken up into a very weird structure. So yeah, there's a lot of thoughts on The Walking Dead, but overall, I will tell you that it really annoyed the fuck out of me whenever I binge through the show. When you get to the end, then it's like, just kidding, not ending. Now you have to watch 3 shows. There's a Rick and Michonne show, and there's a Daryl Dixon show, and there's a Maggie and Negan show that makes no fucking sense. And so it's just it's a product at this point. I don't like SJW wokeness, but do you feel people create manufactured outrage when they hated Last of Us episode 3? Nothing was forced. Yes. Here's the deal, and we'll end on this unless I have any more super chats, which I have one more. Okay, hang on. No more super chats, guys, please, because I'm trying to wrap up. I appreciate it very much, but yeah, I'm trying to get off of here. So let me do this. I'm going to hide your comment for 1 second. I want to end on that one. So funniest kill from Friday the 13th series. I don't know, dude. Funniest kill? Probably the boxing kill. That one's pretty funny to me. Since we're basically talking about Scooby-Doo, which horror villain would you see them face? Freddy, Michael, or Jason? Do you have an X-Men ranking? You do have an X-Men ranking. Okay, good. So I'm not crazy. I don't think that they would face any of them. I mean, it would be funny to see somebody do like a PG animated version and have those characters show up against the Scooby-Doo crew. What are your thoughts on the Hostel films? The first one really fucked me up when I saw it in theaters. I felt like I was watching a snuff film. The second one was decent. Like I haven't watched them in years. They're the types of movies that's the ultimate example of torture porn. And I'm not really a big torture porn guy, so I haven't watched them in years. I'll probably review them at some point, but haven't watched them in a long time. If you could revive up to 3 killed off characters in various horror series, who would it be? The Dream Warriors characters. They get killed off at the beginning of Dream Master. There you go. Quick. All right. No more super chats. Cut it off. All right. I don't like SJW wokeness. Do you feel people created manufactured outrage when they hated The Last of Us episode 3? I knew when I watched the episode over a month ago that was going to be the episode that was going to cause a bunch of bullshit. I even said it in my review. I said, this is going to be the one that's going to be the most divisive, debated, and argued about episode of this entire season. It's really the only episode that's going to cause any of that. And there's some people that understandably would have that reaction because it's different than the game. And because it's the only episode of the 9 that does not focus primarily on the 2 main characters of Joel and Ellie. And so I knew there was going to be some people that were going to not be as receptive to that episode for story reasons, which is at least understandable. But I knew for a fact, because it's an episode that focuses on 2 gay guys, that there is going to be a bunch of woke comments and a bunch of SJW comments and a bunch of, agenda comments and stuff like that. I mean, you could see them coming 100 fucking miles away, and they're all worded the same, and they're always the same verbiage and the same little keywords that they all throw out. It's like a fucking cult. And yeah, The Last of Us episode 3 is just one example, but there's this movement out there, if you even want to call it that, to where we have had some things that absolutely deserve that type of response. We have had things like the Black Christmas 2019 film, where you watch it and you go, there is absolutely zero fucking creative merit to this whatsoever. This is literally a political agenda wrapped up into a 90-minute movie. There are examples of that deserve all of that type of hate and outrage and vitriol. But there's about one of those for every 50 that get that reaction that don't deserve or merit it. And it's just because these fucking people love to hear themselves talk. You have certain people that just want to repeat everything that they see everybody else saying. So they get a little sniff of it and say, oh, it's got a gay dude in it. It's got a black character in it. It's got a woman as the lead. That shit's woke. And then you have a lot of people out there that just can't help but let their prejudice show. And I'm not somebody, like I've said numerous times, I'm not somebody that likes or appreciates whenever somebody says, oh, well, you like this or you don't like this, you must be this. But there's times where that is the case. Like if you leave a comment saying, I don't like Last of Us episode 3, screw this, I don't want to watch 2 gay dudes or something like that, then your problem with the episode is that 2 gay dudes exist in it. And that is rooted quite directly in homophobia. And so there's some people that merit that type of response. And you always see them talking about shit like, oh, this is an agenda. This is Hollywood trying to shove it down your throat. This is Hollywood trying to groom us and trying to force it and do all this stuff. No. There are gay people that exist. There are black people that exist. There are women that exist. There are Asians that exist. There are trans people that exist. They are people that exist in the fucking world that these stories are now trying to recreate. So there are going to be stories that have gay characters and black characters and women characters and trans characters and fucking everything else, because that is reflection of the world that we live in. If you think that simply having 2 gay characters be the center of a story is an agenda, I got news for you. You're the one with the agenda. You're the one who's the asshole in the situation, because your agenda is to silence all of that shit and get rid of it and just have white dudes be the center of everything. And guess what? We've been the center of everything for a long fucking time. A long fucking time. And that's what drives me nuts. Like, you watch a story like that is a masterfully acted episode of TV. That is a very well written episode of TV. And I'm somebody that I don't think it's one of the greatest episodes ever. I'm somebody that felt that was a little bit much when I saw it on Twitter and everybody's like, this is the greatest episode of TV that I've seen in 3 decades. I'm like, no, it's not that good. It's good. It's really good. It's not that good. But even me saying it's not that good, it's a really fucking good episode of TV. And if your only issue with it is, ew, gay dudes, need I say more? So yes, there's manufactured outrage because there is, first of all, everything that I just said. But the second part of it that's fucking hilarious that I could not wait to see some people step on their own dick with is the people that tried to say that it was forced or it was changed from the game. And it's like, you dumb fuck. Bill was gay in the game. And if you're a little bit grossed out or uncomfortable, or you're getting your pee-pee hurt because we're talking about gay people, buckle the fuck up, because you obviously don't know what The Last of Us is, and you obviously don't know anything about the characters that this game is centered on. So yeah, that absolutely drove me fucking nuts. Like, again, there's legit things that you can say about that episode. There's legit things where you can say, I don't agree with you 100%, but you can say, I didn't feel it was as entertaining as other episodes because it was a slower, more intimate stuff, and I want zombie action, which, again, I would say that's not really the point of Last of Us, but nonetheless, fine. You can say, I didn't care for these characters as much as Joel and Ellie, and I was bummed out that we only got a little bit of them, and I just want to get back to them. Fine. You can say that, to me, this episode, the story didn't seem like it really added to a whole lot. Again, I would disagree with you. I think it actually propels the character arcs of Joel and Ellie strangely without them being there. But nonetheless, if you didn't feel any of that, fine. Totally legit arguments to have. If your argument is, ew, gay dudes, fuck off. Don't watch the rest of the show then. And certainly don't watch anything from the second game, because this is not for you. So, can't stand that type of shit. Let me see here. Making sure I didn't get any little stragglers in here. I don't believe so. Okay. That is it for me, guys. So thank you so much. I know that was a dramatic note to end on, but nonetheless, thank you so much for all of the questions, all of the super chats, all of the support that you guys continue to give. Thank you for hanging out, even if you just hung out. Hopefully, I got to your question. Again, it's impossible, literally physically impossible. Even if I had a team of 5 people helping me, there's no way I can get to everybody's questions, but I do try. So thank you to everybody that hung out. As far as things to look forward to for the foreseeable future, so you got The Last of Us episode 5 that is dropping tomorrow, not Sunday, tomorrow. They pushed it forward a couple of days because of the Super Bowl. So watch it tomorrow. And I'm trying to get everything set up to where we can do our live stream spoiler chat on Saturday afternoon. But if that doesn't work out, it'll be Monday, regular time. And I'll announce that ahead of time. So you have that. I also am got Big Trouble in Little China coming out at some point soon within the next week. I know I keep saying that, but it's been a long week, so it's whenever I get a chance to do that. So Big Trouble in Little China is coming. Got the Dead Space ranking that's going to be on my gaming channel, as excuse me, as well as some more live streams with Hogwarts Legacy. I had meant to play that all 3 nights of my my 72-hour early access, but it happened to be on a week that my wife was out of town, so dad mode took over. And then, like I said, we've got earlier in the stream, we got a lot of new releases next weekend, and we got the Rocky ranking or the Rocky review series coming up the next couple of weeks as well. So a lot of good stuff heading your way. Be sure to check it out. Thank you once again for hanging out. And with that, I bid you adieu. I don't have a sound for that, do I? No. I bid you adieu.